mind, lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted muse always gets my shit confused. What's a man have to prove? Do I have to walk the night for you? Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. Drunken young wayward mind, lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted muse always gets my shit confused. What's a man have to prove? Do I have to walk the night for you? Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. Drunken young, I asked to walk you home, but an aloof response had me on my own without you. I stumble on, all alone, with DMVs. Where are you gone? On repeat in my dome so blue. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. You pick me up, don't you know you got a hold on me? It brings me down in only ways that you can see. You give me close, then you go ahead and walk from me, and hit me up when you're lonesome and need company. Wayward mind, lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. She's
And we're live again another Monday night. How's everybody doing tonight?
Good.
Pretty good.
A little chilly out though.
Yeah,
It's a winter.
summer's over, I think.
I saw somebody in shorts and a t-shirt today.
Oh, jeez. Did he look like Hulk Hogan?
Is that Normie Jacobs out at
Normie
Canadian Tire?
Jacobs, yeah.
There's a blast from the past for you.
Wearing the Bills weightlifting pants. And,
Playoffs, baby. Let's
yeah,
go.
yeah,
Oh, yeah, the old 80s jammies.
yes. I remember seeing him out at Canadian Tire with the muscle shirt.
Zubu, was it Zubu or something like that? The brand.
I think
I
you're
forget.
right.
Something
With
like
the
that.
skullet.
Yes.
And the weight belt and the weight belt around them.
We forgot one word to associate Norm Jacobs, and that's legend.
Yeah.
He was amazing. He was awesome.
Yeah, rest his soul.
Under the category of you know, you know.
Yeah.
That's right. Anyways, welcome everyone. Armchair Chirpers. We wanted to acknowledge one of our great sponsors this evening, Reboot Repair, Cam and Dylan, Stratford's finest computer support and services, personalized IT solutions, hardware, software repairs on site for home and business services. These guys will take care of you with any needs. They also do cell phone repairs. A lot of people come into their bricks and mortar here at 155 Erie, the home of our podcast this evening and every week. But yeah, they'll help you out, friendly guys, and they're just continuing to build. I was talking to Dylan a few weeks ago, and they're getting referral calls and going out to these calls, and that just snowballs, and that's how small business works.
Absolutely.
And talking to Dylan, they've got big aspirations for this now small company, but they're looking to build. So always encouraging to hear about the great business that they're doing.
Kudos, boys. Thanks for all your help.
All right.
And
Well,
once
that's
again, my own personal Jesus on the Irish production there on Saturday
That's
night
right.
when
Yeah.
our camera took a crap.
Uh-oh.
And, well, the camera was fine. The cord took a crap. And, of course, it's a very specific cord to that camera. So it's not like you could just go get an extension cord or something.
But we had one here at the shop.
And son of a gun, if Dylan didn't, I said, we got one over at, and shout out to the Armchair Chirpers for sharing
Hey, no problem.
their stuff.
No problem.
Thanks for
Always.
sharing your stuff.
Community.
Yeah, we got a running tab. No worries.
Yeah, we're scratching it into the back of the seats up there
Right.
in the Armchair Chirper zone.
How many times have we saved Holly's ass?
Oh,
Tick,
man.
tick.
Well, I'll tell you one guy, speaking of the Irish, one guy that could help pay for a few things for the Irish productions, Chris Koslick, man. Shout out to him with winning the $900 with the garbage can toss. So
And the thing, it wasn't so much that he won, it was how he won it. He walked through our Armchair Chirper zone, nose in
Right?
the air, flipping
Oh,
the 45.
yeah.
And he
Life
goes-
was good.
He literally said to me, he goes, "You recognize this number?" And I'm going, "Oh my God."
Well, I said to him, I go, hey, I said, you better have number 45. And he pulled it out like he was holding the golden ticket from Willy Wonka.
That guy's been cleaning up. He's
Yeah.
won a couple 50-50s. He's got that. And,
He said he's still in the hole, though.
well, 900, that'll...
Yeah,
And
that
that
all
was,
the
sound you
pucks
heard
in
at the
the
rink Saturday night was Razor's crest fallen.
yes. Yeah, it was a very
After
sad
hitting
time.
untold
Oh.
amounts of posts.
Right. And my two daughters were there witnessing it, and I had to blame them because, man, I don't even think I hit the garbage can throwing my 3 pucks.
Well,
It
they
was
said they were
awful.
thoroughly disappointed.
Yeah.
They kept hearing this thing that Razor gets it close. But
And they were.
Yeah.
They were like, Dad, like, come on, you got to
Stop
pick it
embarrassing
up.
us.
Yeah.
We come to one game.
I embarrassed the name.
yeah.
We've all been there where we
Sorry,
embarrass the
girls.
hell out of our kids.
I blame the Miller Lights.
Yeah.
But, oh, well.
Yeah, because normally you're stone cold sober at the Irish games.
That's right. Yeah.
Right?
Oh, good
love
time.
it.
Good time.
Love it.
All right, let's take
Yes.
one last jab at Hockey Canada.
Holy moly. What an absolute train wreck.
Oh, what a a gong show.
That was, cough up a fur ball.
Oh, I just the excuses that came out this week. Just first of all, I have a question for everybody here. If you're coaching a junior age hockey team and your team is not winning, do you stop practicing?
See, that's sure. Let's start there. I mean, even the game day skate the day of, and
Yeah.
he said they were tired.
Right.
They're tired.
They're exhausted.
They're 18 and 19 years old, and they're tired. It's
In
a
their home
week-long
country.
tournament.
Yeah, it's
They
a
played-
2-week tournament.
They
Come
played
on.
4 games in 6 days,
Yep.
and they're pooped. They're 18. You're 19.
Yeah.
Some are 16.
This world championship, it's a debacle. It is a joke. Something's got to be done. I had a fun one today. Jordan sent me the picture of the Prime Minister stepping down, and I said, well, Hockey Canada's starting right at the top. Just go from there, because I don't know what you do. It was bad team selection, horrible coaching, all around terrible.
Zero culture.
Yeah. And not a good look on Ottawa after Canada goes out and nobody shows up. You know.
Oh, who cares? Really?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, that was the problem.
I didn't watch the gold medal
Yeah.
game.
No, I didn't either.
I didn't.
I was watching.
I was more interested in the Vikings and the Lions.
Right?
I'm not going to lie.
Considering
I
when
was too.
When the tournament's over in Finland and the arenas are maybe 5,000, 13,000 for the gold medal games. Good for the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was watching the Leaf game, Brian. so
I will
that's
say
okay.
that. Yeah, that was. Yeah. Well, at least we took it overtime.
That's
last
right,
night
that's
anyway,
right,
so,
yeah.
I will say this: they, on top of all the things that could be used to criticize, and they're fair, most of the things that we're saying. I thought about this today while I was doing nothing at work.
At least you admit it.
If I told you guys on Boxing Day, before they even laced them up for the Finland game, that 12 different Canadian players were going to score a goal in the first 5 games, how well do you think they would have done?
I
You
would have
understand?
figured that we were going
Would've
all the
thought,
way then.
yeah.
12 different goal scorers in 5 games. If I told you that was going to happen, you'd say, boy, we're winning at least 4 of those, maybe even 5. We're headed to the medal round. We're rolling. And so I thought a lot of what happened there was a contradiction in and of itself. So 12 different goal scorers for Team Canada. Only one of those guys scored a second one. Nadeau.
Yeah.
He was the only guy on the team to score 2 goals. The captain, Yager, led the team in scoring with 3 assists.
Yeah.
There's nobody in the top 50 in the
Crazy.
tournament
5-0.
scoring.
5-0.
5-0. No Canadians in the top 50. So I read something by Don Cherry, of all people, and I didn't even know he was still sitting upright and taking nourishment. I haven't heard bugger all from him since he started talking about you people. And I can get away with that on this show.
He's
so
got a
piss off.
podcast. He's got a podcast.
Yeah,
so-
okay, well, clearly I got it.
Yeah.
And his grapes is still grapes. And he stood
Yeah.
up for them like typical grapes fashion.
Yeah.
And he said they looked like they were just gripping the stick too tight
Yeah.
right from the word go. And I thought, you know what, that's a really good point. But I could not believe that. When I started I won't say I did a deep dive, but I dove into the numbers a little bit. 12 different goal scorers in the first 5 games, and
Yep.
only one of them scored a second goal. That
and
is incredible.
And another thing I heard today, they talked about some of these players not getting enough ice time. Some of these players were used to playing 18, 19 minutes a game. And the one guy on the Fan 590 this morning, he said that'll affect a player if they're not playing as many minutes as they're used to because
does.
they don't get going.
Yeah.
Like they said, Gavin McKenna's ice time was in half of what he's used to playing. But why did it take it?
Well,
Obviously,
that's
I don't
another
understand why it
coaching
took so long for them to give him more ice time when he was obviously the best player on the team.
I couldn't believe, like, on top of all of the other rigmarole that went on, they call out the top 3 Canadians, and McKenna isn't one of them?
Yeah.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
This kid, and then there's another contradiction. He scored the first goal of the tournament remember?
Against the Finns.
Against the Finns, and then didn't score again.
Yeah. Yep.
And he was just all, like, whether he had the wrong line mates, but no changes were made in the order. And then suddenly, and this is the other contradiction, is that probably right around the time that the Czechs took that penalty near the end of the second period and they got that tipped-in power play goal and made it 3-2, Canada had the next, I believe, 19 shots on net. It was absolutely heart-stopping how well they were playing in the third period. And I'm like, where the hell's this been all week, dude?
Yeah.
You guys, they looked like world beaters. The
Yep.
USA wouldn't have been able to touch them playing like that. And where the hell was that? And then I realized it. One change. Gavin McKenna on the first line.
Yep.
And I'm
Right.
like, okay, what were we waiting for?
Right.
We waited till the third period of the quarterfinals to realize that this kid should get more ice time. And that goes back to the coaching.
It is too bad that it took the third period of the last game that they played in the tournament for them to really show what they were capable of. They showed flashes of it against the Americans, but at the end of the day, there's finger pointing that could go all sorts of different directions. But what I know it's hard for you. You were down on a sunny beach, having a good time. But
I saw the opener, which was it 26th? Yeah, because we left on the
Boxing
27th.
Day.
So I saw that game.
Was it en español?
No, you can't get it down there. It was on webcast.
Okay.
I was able to see a few games. There's nothing to say. I mean, we all saw what we saw, and you have an underwhelming coach. You have one of the executives, pleading to the media for some sovereign reason about, well, we put him in the best hotels and we gave him the best meals and all this, and the entitlement needs to go away, because the successes of this tournament for this team in Canada isn't there to justify any of it. Since 2010, the U.S. have more gold medals, and if that's what the tournament's about, then that's what we'll talk about. Canada's usually competitive, and 2 or 3 of the years in the last, since 2010, they didn't even medal. So there's that as well, including the last 2, where we were both put out by Czechia, who apparently suck. So, and I'm not quoting anybody on that, but I think these kids, and that they are of being kids, they need to be brought back down to life. Whatever happened to the summer tryouts, whatever happened to the camps for bonding, for maybe these kids to understand who they may or may not be playing with. Going into this very short tournament, we have those luxuries of Canadians. We have the facilities. We have the structure in the Canadian junior system where they can hold these camps. And then my big question is, why the hell aren't the top 3 scorers in their respective junior divisions even invited to camp? Why is that? I don't think there's any justification you can give anything. These guys are kids. You've put a big exclamation point on that, Holly, and I appreciate that. If that's the case, get the top 23 players in the league and let's go. And they don't do that. They all of a sudden made it a political thing where, well, we're going to play it this way. Well, how'd that go?
Yeah, analytics was the word that I kept hearing.
Yeah.
Analytics says these are the guys that we want. But I also think, and I think you make some great points, and I think the last one was the best one, I think, in the fact that you didn't take the top 23 kids, because it seemed to me, nice thing about being old is you remember shit that happened decades ago, when a young guy named Steve Yzerman got cut from the 87 Canada Cup team. Here's a guy who was getting 120, 130 points. And it seemed like we had a similar philosophy here, but here's the flaw in the theory, is that the reason that Yzerman got cut is because a guy named Sutter was playing for the team. And what does he do for a living? He checks hockey players into the ground. He is responsible in his own end. He does all the little things necessary so that the Gretzkys and Lemieux can go and get us up 3-2, and then the Sutters of the world can hold that lead.
And he can score.
And he can score a little bit.
Right.
But you're asking 18, sometimes 17-year-old kids to play like a Sutter. These kids have no concept. This guy did it for a living. His whole family did it for a living. Mm-hmm. And you're asking kids who have never done that before. You said we're taking a top 6 and a bottom 6. That's what they said. We're taking a top 6 and a bottom 6. And that's why that's what they said. Analytics says take a top 6 and a bottom 6. And those guys that you mentioned, they got cut because they couldn't be one of the top 6. Why can't they be one of the bottom 6?
Yeah.
Well, they could be. That was the whole problem.
Well, that's what they're telling us, is that, the guys that we carried were the guys that were going to be the bottom 6 guys, and their job was to not score, but to make sure the other team didn't score. Well,
but if it was a top 6, again, and I don't expect you to answer, but the top 3, in the top 10 of the OHL, you're taking a 16-year-old over them? Why? is it McKenna that was 16?
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything
Yeah.
against
He
the
turned
kid. You know,
17
he's
right before the
16
tournament.
years old.
He's having a great year in the
He's having a
W,
great year,
but
you're looking at like
you got
Misa.
valid points.
Misa, I'm sorry. You make an exception and go, kiddo, listen, we had you on the pulse, and Misa's lighting up the OHL.
And he
We're gonna
himself
make a
was an
change.
exceptional status player,
Yes.
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yep.
he was
Yeah.
a 15-year-old
Yeah.
into the O.
And, you know, I was talking to a bunch of people, and they were telling me about the whole stuffed animal incident. That's not what it was. That's not why he wasn't on Team Canada. It was an incident, but it wasn't the reason. Canada already had their mind made up, and because of the ego in that system, they weren't changing their minds no matter what. Because if they did, they would look vulnerable on their ego, saying, "Oh, what? You know, we did misanalyze some of the players, and we do need to change our mind." But they're too pig-headed to do that. That's just
Well,
my point of view. You asked.
I'm gonna go out on a limb here, and I don't blame the kids at all. And I don't know if that's a unpopular
Well, I don't think
statement.
effort was a problem.
The reason why I don't blame the kids is because they weren't the ones that picked the team. They were the ones that showed up. They were the ones that did what they were asked of. When you've got teammates in Carson Rakoff and Porter Malone that literally are line mates for the Brampton Steelheads, and you're not even putting those guys together, like, are you serious? Like, it was just the where I think it all starts is Catherine Henderson, who's Hockey Canada's president and CEO. She was given the post July of 2023, and do you know what her resume is? For the previous 7 years, she was the CEO of Curling Canada. She's the person that you're picking to take over from Scott Smith, who was in a disgrace mode, having to clean up all the BS that happened in 2018 at the gala in London there with the 5 that were charged for sexually assaulting that girl. So when they cleaned house, they brought in Catherine Henderson to lead the ship, who had no hockey experience whatsoever. She's a curling person, but they thought because she had an affiliation with Canadian organizations and stuff that she was the girl that was going to lead Hockey Canada. Okay, so then what does she do? She goes and hires Peter Anholt, who's the GM of the Lethbridge Hurricanes, who last year was an absolute disgrace, who ended up losing in the quarterfinals to Chechnya like they did this year. And how does he get rewarded? You know what, Peter? We're going to have you do our team again because you did such a great job. And so here you've got a person who is a curling expert, and you've got a guy who flubbed last year. And I'm sorry, it's a short tournament. And when you screw up 1 year, you're out. There's too many other people that she could have picked to lead this year's team, and she chose to stay with that guy for whatever reason. And then you end up going to Dave Cameron. Now, kudos to Dave Cameron. Dave Cameron didn't just fall off the turnip truck, right? He won silver in
got hit by the
2011,
turnip truck.
right? He's got hit by a lot of things the past 2 weeks.
Before that, before you get into that, Razor, what I will say, my perception of Dave Cameron, and I don't mean to interrupt your story, but he was completely underwhelming. His accountability was zero, in my opinion.
Yep.
I get that he was protecting some of the players, but when the media is asking you as the Canadian head coach, and you say stuff like, "Well, they're tired," or
Right.
What about all these bad penalties, coach? Well, it's up to them.
Right.
What are you talking about?
He is supposed to be the leader.
What are you
and
talking
he
about?
Was
It
not
seems like
leading.
he's tired and should probably step
Right?
aside.
100%.
Respectfully.
I agree
and
with
we
you.
can't teach discipline. Come on,
So
tell the
he-
guy to stay out of the box or sit in the middle of the bench.
Well, he ends up getting silver in 2011, which I completely forgot of. And he won gold in 2022, which was so underwhelming. I didn't even know that he had won it that recent in 2022. But his questionable coaching decisions, like you guys had alluded to before, not practicing after the loss to Latvia, the loss to
Of
the
any
USA.
of them. Yeah.
You know, the do or die match, canceling the morning skate against the Czechs. Like, are you kidding me? Like, why did Oliver Bonk start on the point on the power play when he doesn't even do that with the Knights?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing?
So, Razor, and getting into a little bit more of that with I forget where I was going with that, with the lines and so on. Like, he didn't have any versatility.
No.
He just went, over the boards,
Yeah.
I
And
don't
to
know.
his defense, he was only doing what he could with the people that Anhol gave him. But come on, like, you got to motivate these guys. Like, it was up to him to, like, what's his name? Miracle on Ice. Herb Brooks would have been rolling in his grave.
Kurt Russell, great role.
Listening to Dave Cameron giving his responses to the media.
I know what I was going to say. Practices in that tournament, in my opinion, aren't about practices. It's about continuing to get the ebbs and flows and grooves of playing with each other, since it is such a short tournament. And the way it just happens, you continue the rhythm. It's for all these excuses that they brought up, it's just disappointing.
I think
they've
what
got a
struck me-
long way to go.
I think what really struck me in that quarterfinal game was the review of the goal. I just, for the life of me, cannot figure out why we tried that. I can only guess what he was thinking. Canada, as I mentioned earlier, has got about 15 or 16 straight shots. They're absolutely dominant. You can't think of anything else that they could do more to be in complete control of this game. And you just kind of felt, or at least I did, and I think others probably felt it too, they're going to score. I mean, you just can't get that many scoring chances and not score.
Right.
But when they got the goal called back, which seemed pretty straightforward to me, the net was off. The American referee was absolutely adamant that it was goaltender interference. And so that he misunderstands the play. He thinks it's going to count because the guy got pushed in and the net was still on. That wasn't it. It's like, he got pushed, yeah, but it's up to you to miss the goalie, and you didn't miss the goalie. So what he's telling the bench is, this is probably the best shot we got to tie it up, guys. And it
Right.
completely took away the momentum that the team had. They then had to kill the penalty off. Then all of a sudden they're back on their heels, and it took 3 or 4 minutes. Now they did eventually tie it up, but you have to wonder, that goal, would that have been the 3rd goal or the 4th goal or the 5th goal? Because they were everywhere.
And because of
Up
all those
until-
penalties, now you're not playing with your regular line mates. Now you're playing
You took
on
all
the
of
penalty
the karma,
kill.
you took all of the rhythm, you took all of the momentum, and you just pissed it out the window on a desperation call.
34 minor penalties in the tournament in 5 games, almost 7 penalties a game. And in 5 games, they scored only 2 more goals than Kazakhstan, a team who was relegated. Like, are you kidding me?
Well, I think the biggest thing is with all these stats that you're rhyming off, it's time to get back to basics with this program, because it's expected for them to compete at a high level, to look for an opportunity to place in this tournament, and they haven't been anywhere close in 2 years.
No. And not
I
to
don't know what the answer is.
Well, I don't want to defend what Scott Smith and his executive did, covering up. They bought the condo there at Maple Leaf Square. They used the money from minor hockey to pay off and it wasn't one girl. Like, it was one girl in 2018, but there was previous girls that they had paid off for similar sexual assault accusations. And so those guys, there's 2 separate things. There's the business side of it, and then there's the hockey side of it. But what you can't deny is that in 2020, they won gold. 21, they won silver. 22, gold. 23, gold. Then they get all ousted in the summer of 23. Then you're out the next 2 years in the quarterfinals. Those guys did a great job. They dropped the ball immensely covering up the sexual assault in 2018, and they ended up all having to resign, like the Prime Minister did today. But at the end of the day, those guys had the right hockey people in place. The results speak volumes. What the leadership or lack of leadership today, when you got a girl who's a curling expert leading the show, what did you expect? What did you really expect? And given the reins to a guy who fumbled on the goal line last year, and you give him the ball again, what did you expect to happen? So I blame those 3 Catherine Henderson, Peter Anholt, and Dave Cameron, not the kids. The kids were put into positions that they weren't normally used to, and those three are the ones that I believe should be answering all the questions and trying to get rectified so that this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, that's.
Well, I mean, obviously there's going to be a new coach and there's going to be a new, but it kind of reminds, I was talking to Les about this Saturday night.
Yep.
Everybody remember the program of excellence from a generation
Right.
ago?
Yep.
Canada was in a similar situation. They weren't winning anything internationally. All of a sudden they said, you know what, we're going to strip it down, bare bones, and we're going to come up with a system that promotes success at every level. And the thing that needs to be remembered is that they won gold at 17U and they won gold at 18U.
Yep.
And then they come here and they shit the bed. And so an overreaction is not the right thing. But looking at, to your point about the leadership group and the manner in which we are picking players, analytics has a role in, you know, being a baseball guy, obviously analytics is a conversation almost every day in the major leagues about how much do you count on analytics and how much do you trust your hockey knowledge and your experience and your wisdom.
Right.
So there needs to be a balance found there. Obviously, you can pick up a lot of information from analytics, but you can't let it control how you run a program of any kind, let
Right.
alone one.
Well,
that
it's about
is this
shitting the
important.
bed and then walking to the washroom and the shit's still running down your leg. That's how bad it is right now.
It sure seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, just look at what the American success has done. Like, maybe
Well, I
it's
mean-
time to have a
Well,
full-time coach.
They have that
And-
program in the States now
Right.
where they send all the
development team
central
program.
yes,
Yep.
and it's doing wonders. And
Yep.
the Americans are showing it. I'll admit it. Everybody's caught up to Canada, but
For
I
sure.
think the Americans have gone past us now.
I'm
We're in
hesitant
trouble.
to say everybody.
Well,
Like, we were
a
talking,
lot of teams have.
We were talking before when we were on air. Like, that Cole Hudson, holy moly. First time in history a defenseman has outright led the tournament in scoring. Like, he had 3 goals and 8 assists. Like, the guy was lights out. He got that nice goal off the post on George against the Canadians on New Year's Eve. And then he did it again there late in the second period against the Finns in the gold medal game last night. Like, the guy was lights out. And
Well, there's a few kids on that team, and
Yeah.
I think maybe it's time to also recognize that this may be the golden age for
Yeah.
U.S. hockey.
Yep.
they had the top 3 point getters in Hudson, Leonard, and Perreault.
And that Leonard is a horse, man.
Unreal.
Fucking
Something
fly.
that I want to talk to you guys about too a little bit is there an asterisk with this tournament without the Russians there?
Well, we did talk about that last week.
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
It-
the fact that they're
Oh,
not
yeah.
there.
It's obviously not the same. It's like the Four Nations Cup, right? It just doesn't have the
It's
same.
really the Three Nations Cup and, you know,
Finland.
Finland.
Yeah.
So these are, you know, again, when you're old, you remember things back in 80 and 84 when the U.S. boycotted Moscow Olympics,
Moscow.
and then the Soviets boycotted the L.A. Olympics in 84.
Yep.
And it just became a shit show because the Russians won everything in 80 and the Americans won everything in 84.
Right.
And, you know, when they're not here, it's not a best-on-best tournament. Well,
Right.
let's face it, as much as we like to talk, you know, tell ourselves that we're better than the Russians and all that fun stuff, it's not a best-on-best tournament
Right.
if the best teams aren't there.
Yeah,
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Having said that, I don't foresee anybody beating the Americans on any regular
They're
basis
that
while this
good.
group is together. The thing, when I watched the New Year's Eve game, all I saw was, you know, a bunch of kids taking penalties because it's just going on too fast for them.
They were frustrated.
You know what I mean?
We-
The Americans were just too quick for them, and that's when you start taking restraining fouls, hooking and holding and tripping, and that I believed at the time that Cameron's plan was to play the game. The system was to play at absolute breakneck speed, because it was said time and again pre-tournament, this team is built to beat the Americans, and that again is another flaw in the theory. You got to get to the Americans to
right.
beat them.
Yeah, that's
Right.
right.
Right? You didn't build a team that could beat frickin' Czechia. And I don't care what anybody on the TV says. Czechia cannot hold the Canadian hockey program's jockstrap. I'll say it to anybody, and I don't care who's listening. When Canada finally got going in that game, they absolutely blew them away. It could have been 9-0 in a different scenario for Canada.
I got to admit, and it's obviously not his fault, but I was so excited. I was talking before we went on air. I was so excited to see Cowan. Hadn't seen him live before. Had heard so much about him, being a Leaf fan, and in the first period, while he was going to the Canadian bench, he got rocked by that big U.S. defenseman. That just took him right off his game. Cross-checks the guy in the head, got away with that penalty, and then he took that stupid penalty in the third period going to the Canadian bench where he boarded the American.
All you had to do is just go to the bench.
Right,
You know,
exactly.
the puck was
But
on
he
his
was
feet and-
frustrated, right? Like he hadn't been scoring, didn't have a great tournament. And I was disappointed that he didn't do what he is capable of doing. But none of them really did what they're capable of doing for the whole 5 games that they all played, right?
But you get back to that American team, like Gabe Perreault had a fabulous tournament for the Americans. The consensus number one, James Higgins, he had another great tournament for the Americans. So all their top guys showed up to play.
Yeah.
And that goaltender,
Yep.
Trey,
Uh,
you know him.
yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
the guy.
He was looked as the
Weak spot.
of the team.
Agreed, yeah.
But I thought he outplayed George.
He was actually a surprise starter against the Canadians
Yeah.
because they weren't sure about him. He hadn't been playing well. And boy, did he show up. Like and I thought George, and I know you and I disagree a little bit, but I thought George was fine.
Well,
you know,
he was. I mean, he had 2 straight shutouts.
Yep.
But he got out goaltended in the American game, and he definitely got out goaltended in the Czech game.
I just think that in the American game, the American goalie stood on his head. George played well. The American goalie stood on his head. But in the Czech game, like that game-winning goal, a lot of people went, like, and I know you thought he could have got over there quicker. Folks, a foot off the ice, stick side, is the hardest save to make for a goalie. It's not on the ice, so your right pad isn't going to stop it, and it's below your blocker. Like it was that Czech player couldn't have sniped it any better. That was the perfect spot. It was just one of those things. It was a perfect shot at a perfect time.
And the last thing I want to say about this team is these Canadian kids for next year better remember, after the Americans beat us, they went into their locker room and they sang our goal song, and they made sure everybody could hear it.
Yeah.
They were great trolling, and
I think the American girls tried that once, didn't
yep,
they?
but all this, yeah. So these kids that are playing next year, put that in the back of your mind and remember, they sang your goal song, trying to get back at you.
Yep.
You had the American captain yelling at Easton Cowan, calling him a cowboy. What can you do now? So,
And where is it next year? Minnesota.
In Minnesota,
Right.
And you know what? That's teenagers and the
Oh, it is.
bravado
It
that
is.
comes with teenagers.
Chess just chimed in. Augustine was the last name we were
Thanks,
looking for.
thanks,
Yeah.
Chess.
that's why we get him to
He was
listen.
supposed to be the weak spot of
Yep.
this team,
Right.
to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Having said that, when you talk about that, I mean, it's my personal opinion, and the nice thing about being from Canada is that it doesn't matter what your background is, what your age is, what your gender is, what your beliefs are. You're an expert in hockey.
Yeah.
Just ask us.
Right.
Every one of us is an expert. There's just one thing that I would like to say in closing about these guys. Stop building teams with other teams in mind. We are Canada. We invented the goddamn game. We're still the best at it per capita. All right? It may be different when there's 330 million spitting out a few good hockey players, and kudos to you. But we are still the owners of this franchise. It's other countries' jobs to build teams to beat us.
Right.
Stop building teams to beat other
Get
teams.
back to-
Build our team to play the brand of Canadian hockey,
Right.
which is slowly being sucked out of the international game because, you know, the old line about 2 minutes for hitting too hard.
Yeah.
All right. That's getting sucked. Our type of game is getting sucked backwards through a French milking machine because of this European mindset.
Unpasteurized.
And stop worrying about other countries and put our best
Be
20 kids
the
out there
bar.
and play Canadian hockey. And if they call penalties because we're hitting too hard, then kill the goddamn penalty off.
We got to get back to the mentality that Razor's team had in 85, 86. They didn't care what the other team was doing.
Yeah.
No, that's
We
my
did our
point. That's
thing.
exactly my
That's
point.
exactly what it
Yeah.
is, and you've been a part of that culture.
Yeah.
And Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
Holly.
Be the
That's
best
exactly
version
what
of
we need
us,
to do.
and that's all
Not
I
we're
want to see
building a
from now.
team to beat the Americans. Good
Said
Lord.
no one ever. What is it, baseball? Football? It's hockey, damn it.
Yeah.
Build a Canadian hockey team.
Well
Right.
said.
Yeah. And we've got enough guys to pick from, so
We
that's
are
not the
fine.
problem.
There's nothing wrong with our development up to that point. You just need to, sometimes, as I've said many times as a manager, sometimes you just need to get the fuck out of the way and let them play.
Yeah.
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 100%.
Fair
I
enough.
cussed.
All
Sorry
right.
about that. Sorry,
Let's-
Rat, I cussed.
Yes.
Let's
Oh,
let's
good.
bury that hatchet and
Yeah.
move on. The NHL. Good hockey
Wow.
being played out there.
I will also say this: the first 3 weeks of NHL after the World Juniors, it's
is-
like, oh,
yep.
you know, there's still 3 months of the season left before playoffs.
Yeah.
It's a lull time in the NHL.
Yeah.
Well,
there
for
was
those of us into NFL football, this is like Christmas time.
Playoff, baby, let's
oh,
go.
yeah, yeah.
But
Hence, Halser wearing his Bills jersey tonight. So,
you just never know when this is the year.
right?
You guys are gonna have to find a football podcast or something.
You
Do you,
just
do
never
you like
know.
the Broncos draw?
Oh, it's
Yeah.
better than the Bengals. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. For
Oh,
sure. And
yeah.
I'll be honest
Right?
with you. I had the heebie-jeebies about playing Miami. I always hate playing Miami in the playoffs.
Really? They hate
I-
the cold.
I hate playing a rival team in the playoffs because it just burns
Fair.
your ass
Yeah.
if
Fair.
you lose to them.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's like Toronto can play Montreal, but god damn it, it sucks
Yeah.
if you lost to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I heard about that.
But
It
Denver
happens all
is
the time.
Denver's a really good defense and will definitely give Buffalo a test.
Yeah. Oh, it won't come
Yeah.
easy.
no,
it's
no,
gonna-
it
it's
won't.
Playoffs, nothing comes easy.
Right?
Yeah. No, it'll be good.
Now-
All right. So lots of good hockey.
Yeah, there was a good
Are
hockey
the-
game last night in
Toronto.
Toronto.
Yeah, but Philadelphia Flyers took us to overtime.
I
And-
like the team. They can't close. They really can't. They have trouble. That they had a lead on Las Vegas. They've had they had several leads. The only team that they've closed on is San Jose.
Yeah, and
And so-
Matthews comes back for 2 games in a row, and his fingerprints are all over both of those games.
Yeah.
And Matthew Nyes, hello, thanks for coming back out, kid.
Yep.
5
And
points.
They need him.
Riley with a nice.
He had
goal.
5 or 6 points. Did he have 2 points last night or just the one?
I forget about
sure.
last night, but
Yeah.
in the Boston game,
He had 5
their
points in
line
the
had
Boston game.
13
Yep.
points.
He had 5 points in the Boston game. He had at least one last night or 2, so he might have had a 7-point weekend.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, he's
I think there was a good point about him made with Nyes, and he was taking some heat in the media about his lack of production and all the other stuff. He's a kid.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's a second year.
That's
he's
right.
a second year player, and this is exactly what happens with a guy who's second year in the league, playing with some pretty big boys, and he's going to be fine. He's
Yeah.
going to be one of your power forwards. You'll have to see if you're going to be able to re-sign him. Like there's just those opportunities where if he plays too well, he could play himself right out of Toronto.
Yeah.
But he's a good player for you guys. Very good player.
So let me ask this then: Does him continuing at this level make Toronto have to decide between him or Tavares?
I don't
Nah,
think
I don't
Tavares
think
is
so.
that.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a decision. Like I know what you're asking, and
You know what
I
mean?
appreciate
Like,
that.
It's just
Right.
to
I
your
take
point,
Nyes.
If he's going to play that well
Yeah.
and get this money, can they sign him both, and do they have to?
Like
make a
I think
decision?
Tavares is expendable.
I do too.
I just do.
I think Tavares, re-signing Tavares is up to Tavares. I think if he wants to,
The hometown
100.
discount.
the hometown
100.
discount. So
I
if
think
he
they-
wants to come back to Toronto, he's going to have to take the hometown
I think they need
discount.
to say to him, "Hey, Johnny, if you're willing to take 3 or 4, we'd love to have you. But anything over that, there's the door, buddy. Thanks for."
Because he's cooled off a bit after that hot start.
yeah.
Of course. And also in 2 games, Toronto's defense actually scores goals. I didn't know that
Oh,
could happen
that's
after
a-
17 games.
That's a new.
They
concept.
did second last in the league in defensive production for
Oh,
goals.
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that is one category that you do again beat Ottawa in because they are below you.
I
for
hope
defensive production.
The only thing I might say in their defense is that
It's the Berube
is that
style, I think.
commensurate to the percentage of the payroll spent on defense?
Well, I got another question for you. Is Riley become expendable?
He certainly wasn't last night. He scored the overtime win.
So
Yeah.
that's the first goal he's had since November 22nd, and he averages almost 20 goals a season.
Yep.
So
But
the reason why I'm asking is I'm not saying get rid of him, But if you're looking at a more defensive system and culture that's really working for the Leafs, with his contract and its size, do you start throwing his name out there? I don't know.
I've thought the same. I absolutely have
It's
thought
just
the
it's
same.
just a
where
question. I'm not saying he
it,
doesn't warrant.
it would be
but
different if he was more run and gun, and
Yeah.
and I'm not taking anything away from him because he is valuable offensively and defensively. But you're right; they've changed the culture. Berube is defense first, block shots, score second.
It's a first place club.
It is, and you can't argue with his results, right? And so, are you like what's Riley getting? Is it
I think
8,
like
9,
7
something.
7? Okay, so but it's still a significant amount. You could get, if you could get 2 good guys, maybe one from the minors and one free agent, right? That you're able to get, but it's all about availability.
You got to look at a guy too, like if you have Riley, and again, this is just hypothetical. There's no story out there about this. But what if you were to approach a team like Minnesota and say, "Listen, you guys play the run and gun. We got the guy for you. You know who we're looking at? That number 5 on your blue line there from
Middleton,
Stratford,
right?
And maybe a bottom 6 or something like that to try to figure out that challenge that the Leafs have been having. There's lots of opportunities that could open up
but
for
I
you.
think the problem with that is Morgan Riley's at $7.5 million, and he's still got 4 years left. So
Yeah.
it's term and
That's
contract. A
gonna
lot of teams are
be
not
turning
going to
into a
want to
problem.
pick up, right?
Yeah.
I don't see Riley going anywhere.
No.
What did
McCabe's
scare me? Well, I was just going to say that he suffered a concussion
play with
last
fire.
night after the fight with Garnet Hathaway, where he fell to the ice and he couldn't get up. And he's had concussion problems earlier in the season, where he missed 5 games after being hit in the head with the puck. But he plays with Tanev to form the top shutdown line.
I'm more worried if it was Chris Tanev that went down.
Fair. Well, did you see
Right?
him
Yeah.
spitting out 4 or 5 chiclets and boom, he was back. in
Well,
the
no,
game.
they said that was gum.
Oh, is that what
Yeah,
it
it
was?
was gum.
Yeah,
They-
that was
they-
last year, wasn't it? When he
No,
spit out all
just
the
the,
chiclets
just
when
last
Marner
week.
hit him.
Yeah, just last week.
Yeah,
Tanev
yeah.
pulled out that big wad, and they asked
Oh,
him.
okay.
He goes, "That was just gum.
Oh, good,
It wasn't my
okay.
chiclets." But Jake McCabe, that was just a freak accident that
Right.
happened after the fight. He went down, and Hathaway come down on top of him. It doesn't even Hathaway after the game said, "You don't want to see a guy
Yep.
get hurt like that."
Well, and
he said, "I just didn't have anywhere to go."
Yeah.
a guy like Kyprios asked the question about McCabe, and it's unfortunate he got hurt, but
Yep.
what are you doing?
Yeah.
Yep.
It was
Exactly.
a nothing play.
The guy didn't want to fight him.
No.
He was just trying to get up, and
He was getting a
It was
penalty.
McCabe
Yeah.
that was
Hathaway was getting a
instigating
penalty
it.
for interference. That was it.
Yeah.
Let it go.
Yeah.
Hathaway's a good player for you guys. I like him.
Yeah, there's a lot of good young talent there.
You've got some really, really nice pieces
Oh,
there.
yeah.
I was
Forster looks good, and Mitchkov, if he ever learns
Oh,
how to
my
play
God.
defense, is nice.
He's
Your defense,
deadly.
it looks good too, though.
The kid they got from Anaheim last year,
Drysdale.
Drysdale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Because you gave up a kid that didn't want to play in
he didn't want
Philadelphia.
to play, and they turned it into a
So you get Drysdale, and Drysdale's just
Yeah.
bona
phenomenal.
fide,
He's been awesome.
solid NHL defenseman.
Yeah.
I like your team.
I do too. Like I said, they're young and they have trouble closing, but these are things that you learn.
I think Torts
Later,
has done a great job reinventing
He's
himself.
the right guy for
he
the
is
job
the
to
right
teach him how to
guy.
be NHLers.
I love Torts.
He's
I do.
changed his
I don't
tune.
think I would like playing for him.
No.
Tim loved him.
He challenged. He
Yeah.
challenges you,
Yeah.
right? Like he really challenges you.
Like the thing that was awesome to have Tim on here and talking about everything was like there was guys that would kind of curdle on him, but there was guys if you stood up to him, like you could really gain a lot of respect and Torts would understand that.
Yep.
Like when they had Andrew Chuck and Taylor and a couple of the other veterans that were
Yeah,
in there.
LeCavalier,
they,
Richards.
They ran
and-
the room in the playoff run.
And he let them do it. Like, I don't know if you listened, but the
trusted.
one story where Tim told where a guy took a stupid penalty, and as the guy's on the bench, Torts is just merciless with them. And Tim finally said, enough. And Torts is still laying into the guy, and he said, enough, we've got it. And then he said Torts backed off. Like, to be able to tell John Tortorella.
That was DeMaio.
Yeah.
Because DeMaio goes, did you? Because he F-bombed him. He goes, we fucking got it. Blah, 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 blah. DeMaio goes, did you just tell Coach? Yeah, I did. Let's go. Like,
But Tim had earned that right.
Yeah.
Like he had been with them in New York and had earned his respect doing his two-way play in Tampa. So So good. We'll have to have Tim on again because I'll tell you, talk about a sleeper team that guys aren't wanting to play right now. It's the St. Louis Blues. Like they are.
Ever since they brought in, guess who?
Right?
That new coach from another team.
They go
Not
to-
mention that,
You
Chester.
seen his Chess is sending names in. Should have send the name of that coach in that is taking St. Louis to the promised land.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Chess
something
is
to
probably
Chester
gonna
about
give
the
me a
Leafs
shot
winning,
next
but
time
you
I
know,
see him.
we'll
Next time
we'll
I
let
see
it
him
go.
out at the PRC, he's probably just going to give me a shot on the way by.
St. Louis goes into that outdoor game and just walks all over Chicago. Chicago's not playing any well.
Oh, my
But I thought the
God.
best thing about that is you got Foligno and
Two captains.
Shed standing at center
Yeah,
ice talking to each
going.
other. Before the game, he's saying we're shaking hands after.
Yeah.
And then beginning of the second period, they're fighting each other.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there
Yeah.
going, that's great. You know, Shed goes, well, he asked me if I wanted to go. He said he had a fight. He said he had to go. So, yeah, I'll take him on.
Chicago is a slow burning fire right now. Like they are an absolute train wreck. They get booed off the ice at the Winter Classic,
Field,
coming
yeah.
off at Wrigley Field, losing 6-2 to St. Louis. And like I was listening to Whit on Spittin' Chicklets, and he was saying how the day before the game, the media was all around watching, and they were done the practice. Chicago's out there. The coach had split them into red and white, put 5 pucks on each blue line, and he told them that they couldn't get off the ice until they had scored. The blue or the whites had scored, and the reds had scored. And Whit said after 30 minutes they had scored 1 goal, and he said it was embarrassing. He said all the media was sitting there watching it, and he turned to one of the guys on Spittin' Chicklets, I think it was Merle's, and he says, I'm betting the house on St. Louis tomorrow. Like, these guys are just deflated. And he said it looked like Mrazek was, like, wanting to, just let them score on them so they could get the hell off the ice. But
Yeah, it's an old
Just-
minor hockey drill.
yeah, it's not good because you've Anders
It's supposed
Sorensen.
to be team building and fun, but
Right? And you're doing that.
It's
You're
supposed to be less than
humiliating
a
them.
30-minute drill, though. That's the
Right,
thing.
in front of all the media and oh man, and then to make matters worse, then I'm listening to Jeremy Roenick talk on a podcast how he was pissed off with the face of the franchise, Bedard, for I guess they had all the alumni. They had Denny Savard, they had Chris Chelios, JR, and throughout all the meet and greets and stuff with the alumni and the current Hawks, they said Bedard snubbed him. So
Well, did he, or is it that he's 19 years old and probably isn't too sure what to do?
I guess.
Like
Yeah.
stuff like
Yeah,
that pisses me
wanna
off.
take whatever
Like, and I'm
Jeremy
not
Roenick
saying that
says with
about
a
you,
grain of salt. I
but
get
it's
that.
like
But how
you
can
can't
you
tell me
not?
with who Bedard is that he's going to snub the legends of the Hawks and snub the legends that were there. Like, if that's the case, then they've got the wrong kid,
Right.
And he should be out of town.
The
Like,
only
I
good
wondered-
news for Chicago is that there's a pretty good draft coming up, and they're going to pick 1, 2, or 3.
They've
They're gonna get
they've
another
hit
super
absolutely
stud.
rock bottom. I mean, Bedard's not going to solve anything. They just got rid of Hall. Bertuzzi's their leading scorer with 12 goals. Like it's a barn burner.
It is.
But it's like that's just where they are.
Yeah.
I look at how well like a team like San Jose's been playing this year. They're 31st.
yeah,
You got
You know?
Celebrating out there with 13
He's
goals
doing
already.
fantastic.
he's lights out.
He's
Fabulous.
doing fantastic.
Would he have helped Team Canada?
Could have used him against Czechia, I think.
Bernard, I think
Too
Bernard
soon.
and Celebrating both could have helped Team Canada, but
But
Well, let's
you know,
face it, last time they won gold, it was all on Bedard.
yeah.
Yeah.
But even looking at a guy like Bedard, like he's a small kid. He's 19 years old,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden he's got all this weight on his shoulders on a team that just isn't even
There's
remotely
nothing.
competitive.
There's nothing there.
No.
Nothing.
No. And,
So,
and there's nothing that they can really do. Like
No.
it doesn't seem like. I know they brought Taylor Hall and Foligno and all these guys in to try and prop up Bedard, but it hasn't worked.
Like
he
Taylor
just-
Hall, I don't even know what happened to that guy.
Yeah.
For being a first overall pick, and then he
Well,
got
he
traded
was-
out of Edmonton because they were giving the team to McDavid and all that. But he went to Jersey and won a Hart Trophy, and
Yeah.
then I don't know.
And then he falls off
and
the
then,
face of
and
the
then he
earth.
goes to Buffalo
Boston.
and shits all over the
Oh,
bed.
yeah, Buffalo. I forgot.
And played with Skinner and Eichel, and they had 4 points at December.
Yeah.
Like that career is really a head scratcher to
That's
me.
a roller coaster ride, that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. What about what's
That-
going on in Vancouver, that debacle with Miller and
Pedersen's leaving town, apparently.
It looks like, one of them's got to leave. And apparently all the guys that you hear talking in the media love JT Miller. Like they said, I didn't realize that he had averaged 94 points over the last 3 years. That guy is legit. And Brad Richardson, one of the ex-Vancouver teammates of the two of them, talked on Missing Curfew podcast how he warned Miller, how he was risking alienating Peterson by being so hard on him. And he said, I warned him. He said, he's not a kid that can take all of that. Some guys can, but other guys are a little bit softer.
Sometimes you got to read the room, man.
Right. And so he just said, I tried warning him, and now they've gone past a point of no return. You've got to trade one or the other.
I still think we make them do media together.
Yeah.
It'd be good for good entertainment.
It's just a train wreck with what's going on there.
Well, the Spit and Chicklets podcast, they have JT Miller going to Vegas and all
Rangers.
These,
If he goes to
LA.
Vegas, look at Vegas right now. They're leading the NHL.
Yeah.
Is Vegas has to be the Stanley Cup
You would
predominant
think.
favorite right now?
You would think, right?
And they're not a weak team at all anywhere. There's no holes in that lineup.
Yeah. They look deadly. They look really good right now. Yeah, I've heard the same things, Oh, Miller's going here. Oh, no, Peterson's going there. It's going to be one of those ones with a team that you didn't even hear.
Pedersen to Boston, possibly.
Yep.
And possibly Jersey. But that's just through different things.
Jersey's interesting.
Yeah. So here's let's just say halfway through the season. We're at, 40 games-ish?
Just about,
we're
yep.
halfway.
Yep.
39, 40 games. So if the playoffs started tomorrow, who do you have winning the cup?
Vegas.
Okay.
Leafs, of course. Look at
Yeah.
I
Look at his
would say
shirt.
I would say the Leafs, but
Why don't
it's-
you?
because Vegas right now is
Okay.
they have no holes in their
but-
lineup.
but
It
not-
ain't his first rodeo.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're gonna go for a second round win.
Okay. And Holly?
I've still got Edmonton.
Edmonton. Cool.
They have all the pieces. They went there. If the playoffs started today, they avoid Vegas until the third round. They would get Anaheim in the first round. That's not Anaheim.
Not Anaheim, no.
I'd have to check that. But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, you avoid playing Vegas till the third round.
Yeah.
And
So no President's Trophy curse for you, Les. They're
We're getting
going all the
Pittsburgh
way.
in the first round right now. Yikes!
You're saying Leafs?
I'm going to say the Leafs. I'm
Okay.
going out on a limb.
ooh, I'll say.
I like you. I like
Going
you
out on
sticking
a
with
limb and
them,
then
but
Right?
Jumping off
They're
but the
they're
problem
in
is
second in the East,
They still playing Toronto.
1 point behind Washington. What's that?
I think they still play in Toronto, Razor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
my
Out-
problem.
out
My
in-
problem.
Out in Markham.
My problem with the Leafs is
Mississauga Leafs, I'll take them. But
Brian
Toronto,
says you're going out on a limb, and I think that limb might have a little break in it because they got to get past the second round.
Well,
They got to get past the
the
first
two things
round.
the two things I love about
We're
them,
going for a
Les,
second this year.
Playoffs.
Okay.
the two things playoffs. We just want to make the playoffs.
I just think
I-
it'll be fun
I
because
just
remember
hope they
your
win a
pick. Because I
game.
know you didn't remember your pick last year at the turn, but remember your pick. I am picking Tampa Bay Lightning.
Tampa Bay.
Wow.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing I like about them is they've turned a fourth liner, third liner, and now first liner Hagel into a player. Paul always
That's
shows
what
up
they
in the
do. They
second
develop
half.
their
He's a
people.
20-25 goal
Maybe-
scorer. Brandon Point's
Braden
killing
Point,
it.
Still a stud.
Kucherov is just easy go steadies. Play a rope-a-dope, like
And
you
they-
would say.
He hasn't had a great season, but he's a proven Stanley Cup
I'm worried
winner.
about the goaltending.
Fifth
They
in,
get-
fifth
they
in
get-
league scoring will do
they
it.
get Washington
Yeah.
right now too. So
Yep, but that's
is Washington for real though? Come
I'm
playoff
not.
time.
I think Washington is the Eastern Conference Winnipeg Jets.
Yeah.
Who are
I
they?
really do.
Who are they? Are who we thought they were?
That's
Yep,
right.
You want to crown their asses and crown them, but I'm not buying. I'm not drinking the
No,
capital
I
Kool-Aid.
I 100 agree. I
may be
100
slightly
agree.
biased because of certain members that are on that team.
The-
But
So, and I appreciate what you said about Kucherov. His numbers are down. But what I will say is they've also lost the 40-goal scorer that they sent to Nashville.
Yep.
And he's still producing. So, and I'm not saying you should really believe what I'm saying. I just think Tampa Bay, they are supposed to be on the way down. They're not.
They're an interesting pick. They've got the pedigree.
Hedman's got one more run in him. I know that.
you
He
trust
just
the
signed a new
goalie?
contract,
Sorry?
Do
didn't
you
he?
still trust the goalie at his like?
Vasilevsky?
Yeah.
Anything can happen.
It
But
just,
I
he
like-
seems to have. You're the resident expert, Razor, but he just doesn't look like the same guy.
Well, that's who I was talking about. Not Kucherov not having a good season. Kucherov's all right. I was talking about the
Talking
goalie,
about
Vasilevsky.
Vasilevsky.
Well, he just looks like a normal goalie.
right.
Yeah.
And but the thing is when you've got 3 cups to your name, yeah, I would
know,
take him all day long.
The other thing and I like the pick because one thing about a team like Tampa is that they're not humming at 100% because
No.
they know what time of year it is.
Right.
No. And that's the one thing. Stammer was on Bob McCowan's podcast a year and a half ago, and I think I probably mentioned this on a previous podcast. But McCowan said to him, what was the biggest thing that you learned when you guys won the President's Trophy and you went out 4 straight? He goes, that you don't have to win the President's Trophy. You don't have to kill yourself all season long to be at the top of the division that you're in. Now, that can be dangerous because all of a sudden you go, you lose 3 of 5 or something like that, and all of a sudden you're on the outside looking in. But I just think that this team's completely well coached. I think Cooper's top 3 or 4 in the league.
He's a
Coaching's never
genius.
going to be a problem in Tampa.
Nope.
You're right.
No, he's
and
top notch.
I just really think that where everybody else has their eyes are the teams that are killing it. I don't have any argument with you, Les, about Vegas. They're going to be there and they're going to compete. Edmonton, I agree, and Leafs. Well, that's up to you, Razor. But
They got great goaltending. Great goaltending.
but I just it always seems to be, and Panthers are going to be there,
Yeah.
right? These
Yep.
teams.
Another well-coached
Boston,
team.
and
Paul
I know-
Maurice.
Paul Maurice is a genius.
That's-
He
it's
is.
always
He
gonna
is.
be-
Just
Him and John Cooper
See,
are
and
like
I don't
in the
like
top
Toronto's
echelon.
First round match, I don't like Toronto playing Washington because that's another team that plays a heavy game.
yeah.
Well,
And
we
that's not
wouldn't
a team.
wouldn't get Washington.
Like it just there's
No,
there-
but he's
get
saying like
Pittsburgh,
I'm saying that
Yeah.
for
If it
Toronto to
happens.
get through 3
Yeah.
rounds
Yep.
in the East, you have to get through a Washington, Florida, even a Boston. Boston
Yep.
is not what they used to be, but Boston is still your nemesis team. There's so many pratfalls on the way through. It's so hard to get through 3 rounds of playoffs, and to just have a team that has never gotten through the second round. The thought of them getting through 3 rounds. Yeah.
I'm
Like
gonna.
I'm looking like at Vasilevsky. He's number 10 right now. Oh, that's shots against. But I'm looking at
If you look at the
save
wild card,
percentage.
you look at the wild card right now in the East.
He's still
That's
10th.
not a done deal.
A lot
It
can
is
happen.
so close
We're
in the
only
Eastern
halfway,
Conference.
right? I mean,
The feel-good story
hey, the
right
Flyers
now.
could wake up and figure it out and end up being that 8th team. Who
Yeah,
knows?
the feel-good story right now has to be Columbus.
Well,
With
yeah,
all the turmoil
after-
they've gone
yeah,
through this year,
Yeah.
dealing with Gaudreau,
right? And they're only
Wow.
3 points out of the wild. They're only 2 points actually out of a wild card spot. But there's a lot of teams right there. The Senators, Montreal's still in the mix.
you can say
the
it, Les.
hottest
You
team
can
in
say
the
it.
league
I know.
is the Habs.
Yeah.
They beat the last 4 cup winners in a 5-game stretch on the road trip. December 28th, they beat Florida 4-0.
with
the
the
29th?
season debut of
Se-
what is his name?
Jacob Dobes.
Dobes or
Dobes,
Dobus.
yeah.
It's
Now, with all these teams in that wild card race, is it just because the East is soft this year?
Well, it's clearly the second best conference collectively.
so not to divert what we were talking about,
About,
Razor. Yeah.
right.
So go on with the,
Yeah,
with
so
the winning.
and I didn't realize they were that hot. They
Then they beat Tampa the next
29th.
night.
The next night they beat Tampa 5-2. Then New Year's Eve they beat Vegas 3-2 in Vegas. Then they lose. They came back to reality. They lost 4-2 to Chicago.
Yeah.
And then
Chicago.
January 4th they beat Colorado in
with
Colorado,
the rookie back
2-1.
in net.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's he could be
In a shootout.
he could be a season changer, and I'm not trying to get ahead of anything, but I think they give him more looks because he's very confident in there. He's 6'5", 230, and he
Unreal.
moves like a snake. He's good.
He's got a
So-
982
We'll see.
save percentage. Now that's only after a couple of games, but I like this kid.
Like a long way to go. And, I got a couple texts once they were winning a few games. Oh, you're blowing your draft pick. You can't run a team by
No.
mailing in it every year till you get what you need. They got Davidoff coming up. He's playing over in Russia right now. Sokovsky's taking a step back in his progress. So there's all sorts of little things. Lange had a nice comeback back into the league, but he's cooled off.
Yeah.
Caulfield's found his stroke again. He's up to 21 goals. Suzuki's playing the way he does. Kirby Docks had a couple goals during that stretch. Their defense is looking really good. Houston Hudson is looking great.
Yep.
Gooley is a big stud for us. Matheson could be expendable. You could see him go by the trade deadline, so they could get something good back for him. But you know what? I'll take it. 500 hockey, why not?
Actually, they're right beside each other in the standings, and they do kind of mirror each other.
Going through the
Montreal and
same thing.
Philadelphia,
Yep.
like
Yep.
they're building, they're stockpiling some young talent, and they're starting to move.
The thing that
forward.
I've started to notice with the Habs is I was so sick and tired of turning on either my app or the game, and it's 6 minutes in and it's 2-0. They're down. Like it's just that has been eliminated, which is nice.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that they don't go down 2-0. It's just not within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So lots of work to do, but you know what? We'll take the progress.
That's all you
Yeah.
ask, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
you can deal with you can deal with those lean years,
Yeah.
as long as you see.
You want to see the compete.
Well, I just want to see us being a little bit better
Yeah.
every day. Just
Yeah.
the 1% rule, right? Just get 1% better every day. Show
Exactly.
me some growth, and I think that's what Jeff's saying too.
Yeah.
It's like it's just nice to see after a couple years out of the playoffs,
Right.
you know that you're there's something to hang your hat on.
For
Yeah,
sure.
for sure.
They're
You can't
trending
be
in the right
awesome every
direction.
year. You can't
Yeah.
be the Chiefs. The Chiefs don't exist, very often, and so. Like Vegas, they're good. Seems like they're one of the top
And,
teams
like-
every goddamn year.
But like even less mentioned, like Pittsburgh, they're in the mix.
They're in the mix.
And
Those guys do
Yes.
not go away.
No.
as long as
no.
you've got
And that's on
your
Sid
number one and
Crosby's
number two
back. Well, you
center iceman.
100%.
Crosby and Malkin,
I don't know.
they
man.
refuse to lose.
It is unbelievable.
They are not going to mail it in, right?
I hope they do it.
Those
Yeah.
guys are pushing.
Could you guys imagine a Toronto Pittsburgh first round, like the Dubas story, everything?
That would be
man.
good.
Oh,
It would
wow,
be
yeah.
insane.
That would be good.
Be insane.
Yeah.
And you can't. I think that's probably a good matchup
Yeah.
for Toronto.
Oh, for sure.
But there'd be so much outside the game that would be like, Toronto media is horrible, crazy. It would be all the backstory stuff that they'd be all over.
I think that's a dream matchup
Yep.
for Toronto because it's not
Yeah.
a finesse team.
Yeah.
Well, and they're not heavy hitters there in
That's what I
Pittsburgh
mean.
either.
They're a
Yeah.
finesse team, and
Oh,
so
yeah,
Yeah.
sorry.
they keep over the past few years when you see Toronto having to constantly play teams that play
Yep.
a heavy brand of
Sure.
hockey, and the one year that they did make it through the first round, they got a finesse team.
Hey, before we do, I just want to have a shout out. I was reading about this kid, Ozzy Wiesblatt, 22-year-old right winger from Nashville, made his NHL debut Friday night against Vancouver, and then he played Saturday against Calgary, who was his hometown growing up. He grew up with a single deaf mom. Both parents are deaf, but they split up, and it was just such a great feel-good story. 4 boys and a girl in the family. They didn't have money for the boys who, all 4 of them have played in the dub. Those kids are legit. And I just thought, man, what a great feel-good story. Mom has been deaf since birth and is like the biggest supporter. And the community saw the talent in those 4 boys and have chipped in with hockey equipment and money towards tournaments to allow them to play AAA, and now they're in the W. And shout out to Ozzy Wiesblatt for making his NHL debut, man.
They did a great story on that at the draft. That was pretty good.
Yeah,
That's a hockey name.
yeah.
Just the last thing I wanted to put in before Razor went with that feel-good story. If we're looking for the Four Nations Cup, the starting goaltender has to be Aiden Hill right now.
Wow, I don't know.
He has to be.
I think St. Louis's goalie is
Bennington.
Yeah, Bennington. He's
I'd put my money on Hill right now.
I think it's Bennington's job to lose.
yeah.
But I
Especially
would-
with Army
I wouldn't have
running
a
the
big,
team.
I wouldn't have a problem if Hill started.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
It's
here's
a
the
nice
thing, too, is
luxury
that
to have.
The Hill reminds you kind of like conceptively, he reminds you of Brodeur.
Yeah.
Has a really, really strong team in front of you and makes the saves that you need to make.
Yeah. I just think that's all they need
Of course,
for that
Razor
team.
could probably go play for that team and do all right.
I don't know. Hey man, I can pull that puck out of the net with the best of them. So let me at them.
All right. So before break, we're going to get into a few of our very generous sponsors that are with us this season. We'll start out with SBS Metals, metal fabrication with professional craftsmanship, Stratford's preferred custom commercial and residential metal fabricator. I was talking to Dennis this morning, and he wanted me to make sure that on behalf of him and Kathy and the entire staff, that they wish you a happy new year and all the best in 2025.
Awesome. Domino's Pizza, official pizza of the Armchair Chirpers and the Stratford Fighting Irish. Thank you for
had my
another free
freebie
pizza.
Saturday night.
Yeah, Saturday night.
Everybody went to get their freebies
Yeah.
Saturday night.
And you can cancel that part of the announcement because there's no coupons left.
Yeah, okay. All right. So we won't talk about coming in and getting 3-item pizza anymore from us, but 2 locations, 406 Ontario and 536 Huron Street, Domino's Pizza.
I think I know a few people in the VIP section of the Irish games, and I play hockey with Ryan, and his wife joins him at the games, and they get free pizza every game in the first period, and those seats mean a lot to the people who have bought them.
For sure.
You know, that they're
Bill
usually always
Boone,
there, all of them, and they
Dave
just love
Skinner.
it. Yeah.
Adam Seeley.
Yeah.
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 So it was
Shout
it was
out
a great,
Patrick.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great job, guys, at our friends at Domino's.
Absolutely.
Joe's Diner, the official breakfast, lunch, and dinner diner of the Armchair Chirpers, home of the world famous Perth County number 4. Locally owned by the Myers family, Blaine and his wife Julie. Family owned and operated with 2 locations, one in St. Mary's and the other at 155 Ontario Street, Stratford.
Erie Street,
Erie Street.
What'd I say?
Ontario.
Okay, thank you.
It's right there.
Are we going to keep going, or are we
I
going to?
think we should do a couple more because we probably won't do
Okay.
another.
Brighter Vision, Counselling, Psychology, and Wellness. Shout out to them. Jeff did a great blurb highlighting Brighter Vision today on our Facebook podcast, and I had just wrote how it's just very humbling how so many people have come up to me over the past few months since we've been promoting and advertising Brighter Vision. Sherry and Kelly do a great job talking to people. They provide compassionate and effective counseling services to individuals and families in need, provide a safe and supportive environment where everyone can heal and grow. Shout out to Brighter Vision.
Absolutely. And the official realtor / broker of the Armchair Chirpers, Janet Lange, out of the Home and Company office in Stratford and surrounding area. She has coined the phrase "putting the real in real estate." Her goal is to put the best interest of her clients first. Again, the official realtor and broker of the Armchair Chirpers.
Bentley's Bar, Inn, and Restaurant, official bar restaurant of the Armchair Chirpers. 20 draft beers on tap, daily food specials, fabulous place to spend the night in their lofts or executive suite. Locally owned and operated by the Bentley family. Apparently, December 28th with Small Town Strip Club was a huge hit. I was talking to John at Dufferin over the holidays, and he said that they finally shut her down. I won't say what time, but due to liquor law violations, possibly.
Later than usual.
Right, but that's awesome. So
Yeah.
glad that the Bentley family allowed them to do it, and John was very grateful. They saw a lot of great family and friends there rocking it out. So shout out to John, Small Town Strip Club, and Bentley's for allowing them to do what they did on the 28th.
Absolutely. And last but not least, the Urban Barber, established in 2019. Oh, classic cuts, tapers, grooming, and detailing. Full-service barbershop with 3 barbers by appointment only, along with Rhonda and Jonathan. We are back at it as of today. We took a little hiatus over the holidays for a well-deserved break, and my special thank you to Rhonda and Jonathan for all their hard work on the home stretch into the month of December. We got some of the numbers of how much we did, and it was pretty flattering. So thank you to Stratford and surrounding area for all your support. We certainly appreciate each and every one of our guests that visit the shop. And also, I'm really proud to report that we did a food drive for the House of Blessing in the month of December and donated almost 200 pounds of food.
Amazing.
So thank you to Stratford and surrounding area again for all the donations. We certainly appreciate that. And it just comes full circle with being in this community is, man, do they come to the plate. When you ask different
Right.
campaigns that you're doing or donation drives or whatever it is that you're putting your efforts into, everybody shows up. It's incredible.
Absolutely.
So thank you, Stratford, for that.
Yeah.
All right, so we'll take a short break, and we'll be right back, folks, with some Junior B, Stratford Fighting Irish, and more.
Wayward mind, wayward mind, lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted mule always gets my shit confused. What's a man have to prove? Do I have to walk the knife for you? Every mountain I've climbed, there's a valley low. For every highway I ride, there's a rocky road. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul. Drunk and young, I asked to walk you home, but an aloof response had me on my own without you. I stumble on, all alone, with DMVs. Where are you gone? I'll repeat in my dome so blue. She's got me beat, she's got me broken, right down to my soul.
All right, folks, back after a nice quick break. The Stratford Huddersfield Warriors with a very successful weekend. I'd take 3 or 4
Yeah.
points any day of the week
Against
Yeah.
those two teams, yeah.
against those two teams.
Yeah.
The Friday night game, Brian was there. It looked to me like two teams that just come off a break didn't want to make a mistake.
Well, I think Stratford probably were lucky to get the point they
Yeah.
got.
Well,
It was an even game in the first period.
Yep.
Very tight checking. London looks really good. They
Yes.
look really good, really deep, really
That,
quick.
goaltender
They're
looks
big.
good.
That Weckstrom, the
Weckstrom.
Swedish goalie, he's fantastic. But they really dominated the last, 7 or 8
Yeah.
minutes of the second period. Hit a post on a breakaway, hit a crossbar, had multiple scoring opportunities. But I gotta
McDougall
give
made some
Stratford-
more saves
I
again.
really got to give Stratford credit for their resiliency. There are some games when they look like they are decidedly the second best
Yep.
team on the ice, and yet you look up at the scoreboard and it's 1-0, it's 2-1. They are second in the conference
Yep.
in goals against
Yeah.
to St. Mary's,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not real close, to be honest with you. I think that's 72 they've given up,
Yep.
which is a nice number, like a 2.1 or 2.2 a game. And if not,
They don't
they're
take
St.
many penalties.
Well, that's the thing too. Is
Yeah.
that they're I think they might be first in the league
I
in
think in penalties.
least
Yeah.
amount of
Yep.
penalty minutes. Don't quote me on that.
That's where you got London, who can't stay out of the
Oh,
box,
that's just
right?
it,
Like
you know,
they're the
that's-
exact opposite.
You know, there was some talk around the rink pregame that like which London team you're going to see,
Right.
the
Yeah.
skilled team or the goons,
right.
Yep.
And
We
frankly, kind of saw both. To
yeah
be honest with you.
we went back over I went back over the tape of the overtime because we were talking. I was talking to Cole after he wasn't too impressed with himself. So Stratford was credited with 6 shots, and they were 6 Cole Lewis shots
Oh, really?
on net. Yeah, he just could not buy the back of the net. If you gave him an empty, he probably would have hit the post. He was
Yeah.
just
I'm
having.
not sure who was counting the shots in the first three periods,
Yeah.
but certainly in the overtime, Stratford was the better club.
Yeah.
Right.
And as happens, we see so often in hockey
Yeah.
where you get shot after shot after shot after shot after shot, and the other team goes down the rink and scores.
Right.
How many times have we seen that, especially in overtime?
Yeah.
And it was a legit goal that London got.
Yeah,
But,
big picture, you take the 1 point.
You get the 1 point against a really good opponent.
Yep.
And then went into Listowel and by all
Yeah.
accounts played
So
a really
earlier in the
solid
week,
game.
they traded Josh Granowitz to Sarnia, closer to home, more playing time. He wasn't getting any playing time. And there was another trade in the works, but the paperwork didn't get through in time. So Saturday they announced Jonas Schmidt come back to Stratford.
Love that pickup. Love it.
Yeah, it was he. I talked to his dad quickly. I sent him a message. He said, "Yeah, he's super excited. I talked to Jonas Friday night at the hockey game, and he said he gets to sleep in his own bed.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, it was nice seeing them all Saturday night. There was about 7 or 8
five
of them.
Six of them
Yeah,
come up
so
and saw us
at
after the
the-
game.
At the
Yeah,
Irish
Warriors,
game,
they come
and
walking
Louis
behind
and
you.
Jonas. So
Yep.
it was nice to see Jonas.
Yeah,
I
they-
hadn't seen him in a while.
I
So
Yeah,
saw
they-
Slats. It was good to see
Yep.
Slats. I
Yep.
haven't seen him in a
Yep.
while.
They come up and talk to us after the game there, and then they went to Listowel, and we were, kind of worried about the early start, blah 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 blah, but they came right out of the chute, those kids, and they were on fire. And Jonas Schmidt from the first shift was hungry.
I think Jonas probably brought that fire for
Oh,
them
they
with that
did.
integrity that
Yeah.
he has. So.
he's just going to fit in that room like a glove. Now, he probably knows a lot of those guys already, but he is just such a good pickup
Yeah.
for a development fee. Like, are you kidding me? Like, the guy
Well,
knows the Stratford system. He's familiar with Willie. Like,
And like you said, Schooley and
Oh, my
Lewis
God.
and a few
Like,
of them that are still there. From when
hats
he was
off
there.
to Clarkey and Nick Parr for finding out that he was available, because that was a great pickup. As soon as I heard that, I just thought
He came from Leamington.
top notch.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was. They
I
it
don't
was
think
a
he was playing there.
no. He was about 13 games this year, so he wasn't getting into many games. But he wanted to come home, and it's really good. 19 years old, so there's a
Yeah.
possibility you get him for another year.
Right?
Yeah, and
Who knows?
Leamington, not only is that 2.5 hours down the road, but they're in a league where they're the only team in that neck of the
Well,
woods.
I was
Right.
even looking at
Like the travel for Leamington.
Michael
really sucks.
Denny's stats. He's having probably not the year he was hoping for.
Yeah.
He's got 13 goals in 28 games. But, God, that's a nasty travel schedule.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Terrible.
It's probably the
Terrible.
worst. You were talking to Furlong when he
Yep.
showed up, and
Yeah.
he was, he said, he was 5-6 hour bus rides to
Oh,
games. and,
18-hour bus rides sometimes,
and
right?
that's, that's the
Jeez.
same kind of a thing where it's the little things that
Yep.
that don't really factor into some things that analytics don't pick up.
Yep.
The fact that a young guy can stop taking 3-4 hour bus rides and start sleeping in his own bed. and start
Absolutely.
doing hour or less.
And
to
playing
go
in
out.
front of family
Yeah.
and friends, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
the
that-
travel-
Like, where, Cole had a chance to leave, and when he put all the pieces of the puzzle on the table, and then to him, it meant I get to wear the C of the team that I grew up idolizing, and I get to play in front of family and friends and hopefully hoist the Sutherland with all my buddies. Like, it
Well,
doesn't get much
and-
better than
and
that.
speaking to Rob Lou, his dad, just before the season, he was getting his hair cut, and I was asking him about that. And Lou Sr. said that they had a couple real honest conversations about a whole different amount of things that could or may not happen.
Right.
I mean, the fact that you travel all the way out there, and if the coach isn't exactly what you want, you're playing third line, you're 20 years old, all this different stuff, or playing for your hometown. When you actually break it down, I don't think it was really a whole lot to think about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
we're glad
that's
he's here,
great.
right?
Oh my God,
Yeah.
yeah. And he's got to be like just super excited that Jonas is
back, yeah.
Well-
back. Takes not that Louis couldn't handle it, but that's just another veteran leadership
Yeah, it's
in
like-
the room that knows what's
Well,
going
add that
on.
to the Nagy pickup as well.
And you look at those two kids, right? So they're cousins. Jonas has played up an age group for many years
Yeah.
to play with Cole.
Yep.
People out there that don't know, Jonas is the son of Colin Schmidt, who was former captain for the Stratford
Steph.
Cullens in '96.
Yeah.
And he was on part of that prolific line with Williams and Anderson, right?
Yeah.
And he's just so comfortable with each other. And it showed
Exactly.
right away.
Yeah.
Like Jonas was in on both goals. Drew Hodge scored another goal.
Yep.
The kid's been great. And Dax Vader gets another goal against his brother's team. Before the game, his brother's on the other side of the ice up in the concourse, and Dax is over here. They're both warming up, and his brother's just feeding it to him. And Dax is just keep going on, and his brother's just giving it to him, just chirping him. And I thought it was great. And Dax scored that goal, and his mom looked like she was. So Teague did end up getting a point too, or goal too. So I guess they could talk to each other around the dinner table that
Yeah,
night.
fair. They even ended up even.
But it looks like they're going to ride McDougall. He played both games Friday and Sunday. Stopped 22 of 24 on Friday night, and then 25 of 26 Sunday afternoon. And it's just great. Like they're all jockeying for position, right? Like this is all just a lead
and let's
up.
be honest, with the young team that the Warriors do have, you have to make those moves.
Absolutely.
If you want to go, if you want to go on a run. And those are, so far, I really like the moves that they're
Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
especially when you look at the fact that, there's certain members of those young players that won't be back.
making. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Kipfer's committed and Petrie's committed, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
And so
Lewis is overage.
Lewis is OA, and then
Nagy's an
Schooley
OA.
is as well, I
Yep,
believe.
Schooley.
And
Is
Nagy,
McDougall OA?
and
Yes.
Nagy
Yeah.
and McDougall.
Like this
So, I
is the
mean,
year.
like,
Yeah.
if
Push
you're
those
gonna-
chips all
that's-
in.
Absolutely. And I spoke to Les
Yep.
Friday before the game, and I said, I feel like they need, this is not a time to tinker. They need an impact player.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if Jonas
And I-
Schmidt becomes
Jonas
that
Schmidt
For
player,
sure.
is, yeah.
And the trade deadline's Thursday.
It's
Stratford's still got some irons
Did you
in the
hear?
fire.
Did you hear about the iron in the fire about a possible goalie?
No, that's not going to happen. But
Okay.
that's not an area of concern
No.
for them, I wouldn't
Yeah.
think. I mean, the kid Furlong, I think, has played well enough to garner more time.
now, if
But
knowing Nick Parr, we could be
20-year-old
totally
guy
wrong.
is playing well, and that's
You know.
one thing we have always agreed upon in junior hockey is that you ride a 20-year-old goaltender
Yeah.
in the playoffs.
I think
100.
you can ride
100.
Carter McDougall showed in the playoffs last year that you can ride him and he's going to save.
Yep.
He'll get the save. They
Yep.
just ran into a better team in Listowel.
Yeah.
and that's what it was.
They
fun
were solid. They had
Yeah.
so much talent. They had so much experience. They had good goaltending.
I thought yesterday afternoon, Zach Schooley did a great job of neutralizing Burkett.
Did he?
He was on him from the start of the game all the way through. And they ended up late in the game. They ended up getting coincidentals, and going to the box. And I said to Zach, I said, "Oh, you had him mad." He goes, "Yeah, just trying to goad him into something, right?
Well, it's, that
Get him off his game."
I have said many times how much I like Wiley Burkett. However, he has a nickname in St. Mary's that is not very complimentary.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a nickname in every center.
Well, they call him
Bud
Turtle.
Listowel. Yeah.
And you can figure out for yourself why they call him that.
Yeah. And pretty much it was alluded to that he wouldn't fight him anyway. So but it is what it is. We'll have to see what happens the rest of the week if Stratford makes any moves.
Well, after that happens, then you've got a huge game coming up on the 18th with the Lynx. That's going to be a big one. That's a Saturday night, and 7:30 start. And then we might as well give a shout out, to Joe's Diner. They've got
Absolutely,
that.
yeah. Get your tickets, man.
$35 because there's not many left. I was reading on social media. They're selling quick. So $35, folks. Great deal. Half chicken dinner, coleslaw, macaroni and potato salad, roll and dessert. And it's available at both locations in Stratford and St. Mary's. And
tickets are. Not the meal.
Okay, the tickets are.
The meals
The
at
meals
the,
at the
function
PRC?
center. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Sorry,
okay.
Razor, yeah.
Nope.
I just wanted to
Thanks
make that
for
clear.
clarifying
Yep.
that. So the meals at the PRC hall. Doors open at 4:30. Meal served 5 to 7 p.m.
Guys, just spend the evening in St. Mary's
100.
on the 18th. Get a nice chicken dinner from a very trustable source, and then come watch what is sure to be a fantastic hockey game. And I know it'll be a good hockey game because these teams have played 3 times already, and all 3 of them were good hockey games. It's 2 good teams. St. Mary's had a really good weekend. They ran into some weaker opponent, and they took care of business. And because of that, they're now 4 points clear of the division with games in hand. and they're really starting to roll now. I tell you who's hot as all stink is a kid named Owen Vortman.
Yes.
Who scored 4 goals Friday night in Kamoka and then 2 more Saturday night in Strathroy. 6 goals in 2 games.
Yeah, I'd say that's hot.
But you,
He's now got 20 for the season. Is right up there in the top 6 or 7 in the league.
he also lost a player to the OHL, Barch. He was released.
Yeah,
To go play in the show.
it's a shame
Okay.
because he
Yeah.
grew as like he was pretty nondescript in the first 5 or 6 games.
Yeah.
But
He deserves a shot up in the show.
Well, I
the way he's been
remember
playing.
Seymour saying, we're watching, all of this develop right before our very eyes, this kid Barch, and he'll,
Yeah.
on a team that is not especially deep on defense. So in fact, I think Elzinga moved back and played defense on Saturday night. Who was regularly a forward, the kid that got into it with
Yep.
Wilson the last time
yep.
they played Stratford. And so, it's 2 teams going in the right direction. They're now 1-3 in the division. Of course, by the time you guys listen to the show over a second time, it could be completely different,
So
that
Jason Clark has coined a great phrase that we've been using on the broadcast a lot. When I talked to him just before New Year's there, they said they were back to practice and everything, and he come up with the phrase, there's no rest in the West.
No rest in the
Right.
West.
And it's true, and we keep using Brian's saying on the broadcast as well. It's like weather in Canada. Wait an hour and it'll change. Is
Yeah.
the standings in the Western Conference. Also Sunday afternoon for people out there, Colos is back to 97 points.
Took it away,
At the
didn't
end at the end of the game, we had him up to 99. They took his 2 apples away from him.
Uh-oh.
He was the first one. He texted me right away last night, and he said they took the assists away and they gave them to the people that deserved them.
yeah.
He said it'll come. He's not
Yeah,
worried
he'll get
about
there.
it.
That's
So-
that's what
Still
a
got 20
leader
games left,
does,
Yeah.
right? You don't want to be that guy that I've played with guys over the years that have gone to the penalty box and me. I love it. I love it. I don't know him as well as you do, but when him and the rest of them, Slats and all of them, were all up there in the Chirper zone Saturday night, it was awesome just to talk to them and say hi. So looking forward to that on a Saturday night. I know the Chirpers are going to be over there. We'll have to talk to your good buddy, the play-by-play guy, and see if he can maybe come up with an Armchair Chirper zone for us. So.
Just tell them.
Spencer,
Right?
Spencer,
Yeah.
we're putting the Armchair
Spencer,
Chirper
yeah.
zone up there
Right.
too.
Shout out
Yeah.
to Spencer Seymour, the voice of the St.
Yeah,
Louis
he does a
Blues.
great job.
Yeah.
Sure does.
Yep.
He's an excitable chap.
No, that's going to be
Yeah.
fun.
So like another weekend coming up. There is no easy games,
Right.
right? But
Well, there's a
Have to
lot
wait
of
and
news
see.
in that. Like
Elmira's in Friday night.
Elmira's
So
rolling. They're
Yeah.
up into 6th place now.
Yeah.
And the Siskins have won. The only team that is not rolling, in fact, it's
So,
probably as much news as anything.
the biggest news
is
from the
LaSalle.
weekend is LaSalle. They lost both games to
lost-
teams that are not in the playoffs.
They
Wow.
lost to St. Thomas,
Thomas
Friday
and
night,
Stra-
and
and
then
Sarnia.
lost to the Siskins on Sunday.
So is that
Siskins-
goaltending, or what do you read into
Well,
that?
they gave up 5 goals both times.
Yep.
So I didn't see any highlights, so I don't know if they were good goals or not good goals.
And they were
all
up 3-0
teams go-
in that Waterloo game.
But
So-
just to prove the point is that this is a 10th place St.
Yeah.
Thomas team that is still kind of dangerous. To be
Yeah.
honest
So
with
you can't lose They lose 2 games in a row. They go from 2nd to 5th.
Yeah,
Fifth.
it is that tight.
It is so tight.
Yeah.
You just can't lose, and it's right. It's the wild, wild west, and I love it. I love it.
No
because
rest in the West.
No rest in the West. Jason Clark.
Love it, Clarky.
I love it.
In
So
the East, you've got Air, who lost Jovanovski to the Guelph Storm.
yes, and
Who
so
traded their
and then
goals.
That hurts.
so they
And,
leave Jovanovski to the Guelph Storm. He goes into the Guelph Friday night and posts a
And
shutout.
gets a shutout.
Nice.
So
And I think Clarkie's made that clear too with their setup. With his position with the local team, him and Parzine. You understand that happens in this league, and I think that's a huge challenge for many teams. That happens to, and it just happened to St. Mary's as well, like you mentioned.
Yep.
That's what happens in this league, and it makes it that much more
Yeah.
interesting
Yeah.
if you lose some of those key players. And it's unfortunate, but it's a passing through league basically.
Right. And they all know that. Like, they're a developmental league, but
Developmental league.
it sucks.
Well, it happens
Especially
in every league,
it
right?
does.
I mean,
it does. But
every league has a league above it, and
But at the end of the day, that's what you're designed to do. It just sucks when it happens at inopportune times.
It's a mixed feeling because
Right.
you're happy for the kid.
Well, you are, right?
At least
you
they
don't
didn't
want to
do
be
it the
selfish.
day after the trade
So,
deadline.
Right.
all you
Yeah,
want to say is,
yeah.
go up there and do well, and then, come on back for playoffs.
For sure, right?
Well, it's like when I just listened to Sean Avery's audiobook over the holiday I was on, and he's like, when you're hurt, you want your team to lose. It sounds horrible, but you want your value to be recognized when you're out of the lineup that you lose. In this league, it's like when that player leaves, you don't have options. You have to figure it out. And I think that's what makes it exciting, but definitely not convenient. But it's so nice to see these kids evolve, though, and
Oh, my
progress.
God.
Well, and it gives the junior B loop added cachet, I
100%.
guess. And knowing that at any time there's players that can go up to the OHL
Yeah.
and be basically one step away from the pros. And,
Right.
We probably could come up with a bunch of names of kids that were in that similar spot.
Yeah.
Not the least of which is a kid named Carson Harmer, and a shout
Yeah.
out to him. who
Yeah,
just got a
rookie-
hat trick.
rookie of the week.
Yeah,
Rookie of the week,
exactly.
got a hat trick and local boy, and that's what you want. That's
100%.
That's what you hope for. And I
Like,
said,
could you
that's-
imagine if he was back with them? Right?
Yeah.
Like,
Do you
that
imagine
would-
if he drops back with Stratford, all of a sudden talk about a game changer?
Well,
Right.
and like you said too, when they're talking about the top 50 that they're pulling together for the podcast, and it's like you had a kid that was 16 years old and gone.
Yep.
What if he had 3 years here?
If Harmer had
Yeah.
3 years here, he probably gets 200 points.
and it
Right.
would never happen, right? That
Yeah.
he
but
would
he's
never
just
be
too
here.
good for this league.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I was talking to somebody today because I said Lewis is back to 97, and he didn't agree with the seller with us talking about him getting to 100 points. But I'm like, that'll be the top 10% out of 850 alumni in Stratford Colton Warrior history.
that's a big number.
God.
Pretty big
It's a
in the
big
Go
number.
GHL.
He should embrace it. And I get what he's saying. Like, he doesn't want that to be the focus. Cause
No, but it wasn't him that was saying this. It was somebody else
Okay.
saying it.
Well, it's just
He's only
it's
at a
not-
33 point. But he goes, but I remember 200. But I said, but that's not the same game now.
right. It's a different
used to be.
environment.
Yeah.
I mean,
Like
you
we've
look at-
only had 12 kids in the last 8 or since 2016 get to 100 points.
I mean, you look at Spagnolo and Lee, the
Yep.
two studs in St. Mary's, and they're in their 4th year, and for all of the bravado and all the show and how good those guys are, they are only getting to 120 points.
Yep.
Right.
You know what I mean? And
Right.
so 100 points
Yeah,
is
like-
100%.
30 points a year.
And
like,
to
it's
celebrate.
I
I
said
guess
that to
gone are
somebody.
the
I said,
years of
100%.
100 points in a season in this league.
Nobody does it anymore.
Yeah.
no one does.
You don't see it.
It's a different game.
Well, we don't have those players.
You don't have the quality of players just with
I
they're
think-
playing
but I think the
somewhere else.
goaltending's
The close, well,
a little
it's a
different, you
different-
know.
it's both
a-
those
it's a
things.
bigger-
it
The
is a-
goaltending.
It is a much more structured game.
Yep.
But we
Coaches
just
insist on-
explained it too with Carson Harmer at 16 years old leaving
Yep.
town to
And
go
that's
to
the
the
thing
O.
too, is that I mean, you just don't have the guys.
Yep. to
sticking
do it.
around. Yep.
That would not. I shouldn't say not happened, but it would have been very unlikely. Like, Tim Taylor was really one of the only guys in the 80s to leave to go to the OHL.
Yep.
Most guys were sticking around here and going to
Because you
NCAA.
could go
Yep.
from here to somewhere,
Correct.
whereas there's another step or 2 or 3 now to
Yeah.
get from here to there.
Yeah, 'cause
Yeah.
you don't see a lot of 4-year players now. Like,
No.
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 Cole's
Think
gonna
of
end up
those,
being he's gonna end up
How
being
many-
a 3-year player.
How many did the captain have last year
Dags?
in his career?
5.
No, but how many? Do you know how many points?
163 in 5 years though.
Shit,
Wow.
that's good numbers though.
Yeah.
In
That's
5
good
years,
numbers.
it's pretty.
That's
But he, and then Zach McCann was 3 years, and he had 100 and something there. And I'd have to look it up
Yeah,
to get
yeah.
you the exact number.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's pretty good. You just don't get there's so much turnaround now
Right.
in junior.
It's
hockey.
a different league.
Yep.
You
Well,
don't
not
have
only that,
you don't
we
have
don't
the
have
16-year-old.
NHLers. I
Well, you don't have the Ed Olchuks coming in
That's what I'm
here.
saying. It's
You
like
know,
the
like
Nelson Emerson that's
pumping
gonna come.
140 points. Like, you just don't have that, right? It's a different game.
the
It's a
closest
different
I
Being
can
league.
16 years
remember
old, pumping 142 points, and talking about it 50 years later.
Unreal.
Not 50, but
Unreal.
40 years later.
Right? And then asking me for a picture at the Almond Arena. Go figure, right?
I've been getting a lot of good feedback from your chapter in Denemy's book, by the way.
You know what's hilarious? Like, people have been going, "What the hell are you doing in that book?" I go, "Hey, I'm just as surprised as you guys are," because like Denemy never told me that I was going to be in it. I don't
Yeah.
know if Kyle Casey knew, but I did not know. And so then that night when he was on the show and I'm leafing through and I'm like, what the F? And like I had no idea. So, you know,
Everybody's asking how much you paid. I said, I don't think there was any money exchanged.
he doesn't have any money to pay him.
Under the category of shameless self-promotion.
No, but I've been getting people saying that's fantastic. I
Oh,
said,
it was funny. I had
razor nose.
Tim Ball Friday night. I was working a shift for Toby while he was down in Cuba, and as you're coming back, he's going down, and Tim Ball was stopped into the Dufferin office and was going, "Holy shit, man! I was just reading through the book, and then I see you and old Chuck in there, and I'm like, yeah, I don't know what the hell happened. He must have needed some fluff to fill up
Filler.
the book, but yeah,
Filler.
So, but no, I'm
congrats.
just awesome that
He couldn't find Chris Campbell, apparently.
loved Camsey.
Chris Campbell.
Yeah, he was one of our workers.
He worked there forever.
Yeah. He used to roll his own cigarettes back in the day. he goes, I used to
You
get
should
the
write a book
student-
about working at the
I
Almond.
could. I could.
Yeah.
We've got so many stories, some that you can and can't
Well,
tell
yeah,
on
the
air.
the year I worked was
But you can tell them in a
Campbell
book.
And Pat Kelly
Oh, jeez.
and Angie Nigro.
Oh, wow. Was that at the Almond? Or I guess
Yeah,
you did all
yeah,
of
I
them.
worked
Primarily at the
Friday
junior
nights
games.
back in the day. Before,
Yes.
in the days before the side brush on the Zamboni.
Right?
I was the
You had to
corn
broom
broom
it
The
with the
sweeper.
corn broom.
Literally in there
yes.
with the corn broom sweeping the corners. Standing.
God, I forgot
standing
about
penalty
those.
box
And it was
without the
one
glass.
student. It was one
just
full timer
me,
and
yep.
one student.
Yep, and you had
It's
to stay.
crazy.
You had to stay after the game.
Yes.
And sweep 1/4 of the
Quarter
stands,
to the exit where the men's washroom
right,
is.
clean up all the puke.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, if you were lucky, depending on who was working, there may or may not have been the key to the booth.
Right.
And there may or may not have been the key
Tim
to the
McHugh.
seniors' room,
Right. Oh yeah.
where the Coke machine had something other than Coke in it. And
Probably Labatt's Blue or something.
he had a key. Well,
Right.
yeah, because I think that was the rule with Pat.
Yeah.
Rest his soul. You gotta you gotta have Labatt's Blue in the machine.
So I think we're way off topic here, but I think that one episode we need to have like just a chapter in the episode of just some stories that you guys can bring to the table. Because
it
I
would
know
be
with
hilarious.
I know with the listeners that we have, there'll be all these light bulbs going off, right? Like even with like Brad Saville and you know,
Oh yeah.
we used to play Wednesday nights and he was always
Yeah.
driving the Zamboni and
Yeah.
just it was simple.
It was great
It was
because
so simple.
like Thursday nights, we had the old timers down at the Almond Arena, and I'd get done my work and I'd go in there for a couple of bevies, you know, after hours, and you'd have Rick Johnson, who was one of the goalies
Yeah.
at the time. Well, when he was working, he'd come in uniform and he'd go, at ease, folks. He goes, you can sleep well.
No, that's Officer Rick Johnson.
You can sleep well tonight knowing that Officer Johnson has the city under wraps. It was hilarious.
In
Like
those days,
just the
you
good
knew
old
every
days.
cop's name too. Like,
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
Mr. Brown and
Oh, yeah.
Ashkenaz and Ash and
yeah,
Yep. Graham
Bunting.
Bunting.
Yeah. Yeah.
I do his hair, and he's just a nice.
we had
Oh, he's
the
great.
five
man.
Love
yellow
Graham.
cop
Yeah.
cars.
Oh yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
The yellow
Cop
cop
cars.
cars.
Yellow.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
With the
yeah.
one light.
Yep.
The one
Yeah.
red light on
And
top.
there were only
Yeah.
5 of them. Now there's like 20.
Adam 12.
Yeah.
It's like we always figured they just bought them used from Toronto whenever they got a certain
Exactly.
mileage. We got a discount there.
They got him from New York City with the yellow cab, and then they threw a light on the top.
Just
so.
throw
And a little logo on the side.
They already had the cages in between the front and
So,
the back seats.
Razor, did they get rid of the tractor Zamboni before you started driving?
They did. I never got to drive those. Chris Campbell would tell me stories about that, where
Yeah, I
he said it was like he goes, it would never pass like safeties. Like
No,
he's
it was literally a tractor dragging.
Yeah, the
it was a
Zamboni.
tractor
Drag,
with-
ice, water,
with a-
snow, auger
yeah,
on it.
on
With
the
some
on the back.
hydraulics, yeah.
And he said like you had to have one foot on the clutch.
Crank.
You've got your hand on the wheel, and you've got a broken hockey stick, jamming it in the chute to keep
To
it
keep
Pile
it
of
from
snow
clogging.
to get-
clogging
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
Like he said, there's no way that health and safety would ever allow you to do
wasn't.
something.
Stick
like
your
that.
arm down.
Right.
it.
Health and
Right.
safety wasn't really.
And then you got
important.
diesel exhaust spewing into
And
the
you know
building.
what was funny is that at one point in time, and I don't know if you remember this or not, because I got an older brother, is that this was cutting edge technology
Oh,
at the
yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah.
Because my brother's first year, the losing team had to shovel
Yeah.
Same with
the
my brother.
Coliseum.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
And in those days, it wasn't glass. It was a mesh fence.
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, my brother was
Oh,
born in
yeah.
60, and he actually used to talk about that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes stuff would happen and whatever would happen, and they'd have to stop the play and shovel the rink.
Oh,
Like, just
it was
unbelievable.
ridiculous. It was absolutely. It was
Unbelievable.
we could to your point. We could have an episode of just telling stories about
Well, I
the
think we
rinks.
should.
Like
Yeah.
it was.
Well,
It's
and
hilarious.
then you get into the original Christmas tournaments that happened
Oh, my
then
God.
too, and all the crap that
Yes.
happened there. That time I popped
But-
Billy Walsh.
Well, I've told the story before where Halser, when we were playing in Bantam, and Beggar's Banquet team from Detroit had just
How do you
mopped us
remember
up.
that name? I
And,
knew they were American, but I
And so as we're shaking hands, I don't know what happened. You could tell the story better, but
yeah, it was fluid.
Yeah.
It was always fluid. If we
Gary
had, I
Fluid.
tell you what, we didn't win many hockey games, but we had myself and Gary Fluid and Chad Forback on right wing. We didn't lose any fights. We didn't win many games. We had bench clears with Preston in the
Oh,
Christmas
yeah.
tournament. We had bench clear
Preston down at Cambridge.
in
Yeah.
Galt
in Galt,
because they were
Yes.
they were
lunatics.
they were the hockey version of Darth
It was
Vader.
a rink like Dufferin. It was like
It was a
yellow
one-side-
lighting.
yeah, the one-sided
oh my
stage.
God,
Like
yeah.
Dungy.
Yes.
And it didn't, like, my dad coached the midgets and he would have a brawl, and then my brother'd play the next day and he would have a brawl, and then we'd go up on Sunday afternoon and we'd have a brawl.
And that's
It
a
was
little
just a
little
gunk.
bit to listen to because you said you were the smallest out of all your siblings, so that's a little bit concerning.
Yeah,
for the
and
opponents.
I am on my mom's side. I'm the smallest male. So I learned how to fight just so I could eat. If you didn't win a fight, it meant you went hungry. So yeah.
But it was funny. The Christmas tournament, you got a team from Michigan.
Yep.
And here's Halser beating the shit out of them as we're shaking hands at the end of the game.
and somebody, like I'm paired up.
Yeah.
And somebody grabs me by the shoulder and pulls on me, and I didn't even just turn around
Right.
and right hook, and it's Bill Walsh.
Bill,
Oh,
I
Billy
popped
Walsh.
Bill Walsh in the face, and of course Billy had to
ex-Stratford
and
cop.
I don't
Yeah.
want to, I don't want to make fun of Billy, but to
Right.
talk like Billy, it's
Yeah.
like that. Then Holly, you're gone forever. And he was right. I never played another game. Jesus, Billy, what'd you grab me for? And of course, it's him and Ray
Right.
Richards, who probably refereed 1,000 games
Yeah.
together. Like they were the only referees in town or something like that. Ray Richards had the big egg helmet,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
and Billy had that. remember
So
that skating
coming
style?
coming full circle, this is why we have to do that. We'd be howling for an hour and a
Right?
half.
Oh,
I tell you, man.
we
good
have to look
times.
into it.
Yeah.
Good
just my
times.
response.
But I tell you what, in those days of the Christmas tournament, they'd fill the rink.
It was
Yeah. Oh,
huge.
yeah.
When final day
Oh, yeah.
showed up,
Yeah.
they would fill the bloody rink, and it didn't matter if a Stratford team got to a final.
which
Oh,
they
yeah.
rarely
The
did.
play-
Well, you
was
should have heard Tim talk about it. Like you'd start on Boxing Day, you had your
Yep.
name in a program. Like
Yep.
that was unheard
I still
of.
got programs at home
Right.
in an old
I
phone.
have the two that I played in.
We'd
Yeah.
get the
Yeah.
My
we'd,
brother
we'd
played
get
in
the
the first
tournament
one.
pass.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
go down there, and we'd sit down there
and it
all
was
days.
well done.
Yeah.
Well
Yeah,
done.
It was so
It
good.
was-
You used to go up into the Blue Line Club, and all the players, you'd give them their ticket, and you'd get a breakfast.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or lunch. Usually it was
And
breakfast.
the minor teams played at
Rotary.
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 and the
Major
teams
played
played at the Almond.
Yep.
the main arena.
Yeah.
is
It
what
was
it's
the
called
main.
then.
Yeah.
And
Lots
yeah,
of fun.
That's like my brother played in the first one, which was 75, 76, something like that.
But it
Yeah.
was so fun because you'd get all wound up for it, and then you'd be out somewhere, and you're like, oh, I got a game this afternoon. Who you playing? Oh, Michigan.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
how
Like,
fun was that? to
Teams
say?
wanted
like
to
a lot
come
of times,
here.
yeah, it was like there was a Michigan
Yeah.
team in almost every
Yep.
division, and a lot of times you'd get a billet.
Yeah.
So that that was the real joke. I always thought it was a joke. Even then, I thought it was a joke. It's like, hold on a second. So all your players are staying billeting,
Yeah.
so that you guys can go and get hammered at the hotel.
Right.
Oh,
and
yeah.
have to
At
get
the
kids to
Festival
rink,
Motor Inn.
and
Yeah.
they just show
Yeah.
up.
Oh, I
You
worked
didn't-
there.
You didn't have
Oh,
to.
yeah.
You didn't have to show up early for get your kid to the rink or nothing. You just show up at game time, pour yourself into the rink. Oh yeah, that was a big joke then, man. I tell you.
Good stuff. Well, here we better get into the Irish.
We better
before,
move on now.
Yeah, exactly. Before we get
Before
too
Brian's
deep
late.
into
Balzer's
it.
getting-
Yeah, probably too late for that.
But yeah, Saturday night, another free pizza night. Thank you, Patrick. Irish won 7-1 over Delhi Flames. Had a good turnout, even though I feel bad
another
for them.
crappy night of
Well,
weather
it's
for an Irish.
yeah.
game.
They've just been snake bitten.
Yeah.
Yep,
Like I
they
think
sure have.
their last 3 games, the weather's been suspect.
Just
and-
the Friday nighter against Tilbury was nice. But
Right.
other than that,
Right.
it seems like every other
Yeah,
Saturday
yeah.
night we're getting a bloody snowstorm.
Yeah, like Mo texted me and he's like, the game's still on, and I'm like, awesome, looking
Yeah,
forward
'cause there
to
was
it.
Because you text me that it was the case, that it
Yes.
was still on, and I'm like, I was just going to text you to see.
And I was in the same boat. I'm like, should I go to the rink? Maybe I should, send
Yeah.
a message off to Mo about whether. But there's a rule in the league that you have to cancel the game no less than 5 hours before game time.
Oh, is it?
once,
Okay.
Once 2:00 hit, I knew we were on.
Okay, well that's good. Yeah,
but-
no, they got out, a quick lead, and they Sparks. Oh my God, like
Sullivan Sparks.
The coolest name in hockey.
right? That is so cool. That name.
Who I think will be the number 2 star in the OSHL this week.
Okay.
Evan DeBrouwer, the goalie for Strathroy, who, if you ever catch the other podcast I'm on, he was voted the top goalie in the league.
Okay.
42 save shutout and an assist in a 6-0 win for Strathroy.
Oh wow.
And who'd they beat, Holly? Do you remember?
They were in Tilsonburg.
In Tillsonburg.
Okay.
Big
good
win.
team. Good
Huge
team.
win when you're in last place. That's
Yeah,
a huge
yeah.
freaking win, man.
Right.
And,
Best uniforms in the league, too, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, love
Well,
those.
top 2.
my favorite. Like
Yeah.
we did.
I love them.
We do a
Yeah.
top 5 every week
Orange
in that
Crush.
podcast, and that
Give me
was
a
my
break.
vote. With
Yep.
the black and orange with a great
Yeah.
big orange jet on
I
it.
love
But
the
not
jet
just
logo.
orange, like the Orange Crush.
Yep,
Like it's
absolutely.
beautiful to
yeah,
look at.
yeah, they really did a good job
Yeah.
with it. Yeah.
But I tell you what, Saturday night to me was a fairly momentous occasion because of the discovery of that new line, which is Zach Magwood, Jaden Pekka, and Christian Palillo.
Yep.
And that line is unstoppable.
Holly, they were flying
They
all
were
over the ice.
everywhere. They could have scored another 4
Oh
or
my
5 goals on top of that. Ben Blacker played as well, the Delhi goaltender, played as well as anybody you ever saw that gave up 7 goals.
You're right.
It could have been 12, 13, 14. And the thing that made it really fun is that because that line's together, then suddenly the return of the OG line.
Yeah.
You said
with
that Saturday.
Ray
I love it.
Robbins and Graham Brulot
Yep.
and my
Stokes.
personal favorite, Cameron Stokes, pound for pound, maybe the best 2-way player
Yep.
in the Ontario
Yep.
Super Hockey League.
Before that, I will say something, because you said that Saturday night and just this light went on with me. And I don't think you've said a truer statement so boldly about Stokes. I think he truly is. I
He
think he
does
truly is.
He's the
Everything.
Selkie favorite.
He
is
is.
so
Do you know who he
good out
reminds me
there.
of? I'll tell you who he reminds me of. He reminds me of a prime Doug Gilmore.
Doug. Oh, I was going to say
Yeah.
Doug Risebrow, but
Doug
Gilmore. Yeah.
Small guy
Yep.
that plays bigger than he
Plays
is.
Yep.
big.
That is everywhere on the ice, does everything well. Everything.
Yes, he
Everything
does.
from face-off to penalty kills to power plays to on the
Yeah.
rush to back checking, every possible thing. And he can play physical
Yep.
for a guy who's probably about 160, 65 pounds soaking wet with a brick
In the
his-
program. He might not be that in real life, but he's that in the
Right.
program.
Absolutely.
Even my
yeah.
daughters, Lindsay and Courtney, that were there for the first time, I talked them into coming because they were home for the Christmas holidays, and I said, you got to come and see an Irish game. So they came and were having drinks with us up in the Chirpers lounge, and they're like, who's this 77? And I said, oh, that's Stokesy.
Cameron Stokes.
He's
yeah.
awesome.
1/3 of the OG line.
I really like that line. And the thing that I really noticed, too, about a guy like Ray Robbins that comes is that he's playing differently because his role is different.
Yes.
And I think that that's a healthy thing, because I know that his workload and work ethic and expectations were very high when he would show up. And you know what? Not that they're not now, but it's different. You've got that lights out line, I'll call it, with Palillo and Magwood and Pekka. And these are the second line, and Brule is going to come in, shift and
Yes.
shift out like he just does. Stokesy is who he is, and Robbins is just that really nice
The thing about
compliment.
Ray Robbins is he is just one of the class guys
Yep.
that you ever met, and you could tell. You can tell as they go through the league then the way he's treated by the opposition, that he is so highly respected because
They
he's
don't
such
push him around the net
he's
when it's a whistle, when the goalie covers
he's
up.
net foot presence.
Yeah.
Net front presence
Yeah.
for a guy that size. But the best thing about the OG line is that not only are they all good hockey players, but collectively the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And so when those two lines are going, the O'Brien line scored a couple of goals as well.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you're looking at a line that is 4 lines deep. And then Connor Hall, who might be the best defenseman
Oh my
in
God.
the league.
He's
87.
Guy
he's
picks up
so
speed.
smooth.
Picks up
so
speed doing
smooth.
edges.
He looks like he's not trying.
Yeah.
He does. He makes
Yeah.
it look so effortless.
Razor yelled at him his first game to shoot the puck
Right.
twice, and then that's when he did it
Curl and
backhand,
drag.
top-
And then
top
toe
shot.
drags
Goes
around
full.
two guys from the point. He
So
Yes.
he looked at me and goes, okay, like what?
Maybe he knows what he's
do what you
doing.
want.
Maybe
right?
he knows what he's doing. I can tell you because this week's podcast is top 5 defensemen.
Okay.
And I looked at his numbers. He's got 9 points in 4 games. Not only he's only played 4 games,
Right.
which seems weird because it seems like he's played.
Yeah,
more.
him and Mags came in late.
Yeah, they have
Great
won-
pickups.
They have not only won all 4 games that he has played in, but they've outscored the opposition, and it's not close. Like
Yeah.
22-9 or something like that. It's
Yeah.
just every time Connor Hall suits up, the Irish win big, and that's not a coincidence.
And
The thing that, and just sorry,
Go
really
ahead.
quickly,
No, no.
Razor. The
Yeah.
thing that I notice about his play in his own end, Holly, with Hall, is he doesn't overly commit with his size. Like if he can hold someone off at bay instead of delivering a hit, he does that, and that's his experience that's shining through. I think it's a big deal because when you get into the transitions, when they're coming into the zone, different hockey plays in his own zone, he doesn't leave himself vulnerable because he's trying to make a huge hit or a big impact on something. He's just really, really tidy.
And then when you add to that the fact that I thought they already had the best defensive core in the league with Murray and Fuller and Henderson,
Henderson's
who got a
fantastic.
hat trick against Stratford a couple of
Yeah,
years ago.
yeah.
Mitchell Casey, who has turned into a much better player. since
He's
he came
like
back from
just
Florida.
come out of his shell
And
recently.
So
I love
got,
Yeah.
You got Hall playing with Casey,
Yep.
and that still leaves you either Calvin Thompson, who is just a bruiser,
Yep.
and O'Bonnesswain, those guys are pretty much the same player to the point where one of those guys, as a rule, moves up and plays forward.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you've got 7 really good defensemen, and the goaltending looks good now.
Yeah, Weir played well Saturday night.
Made some
Stopped
big
36 of 37, and
You
you're
know,
right. Some of them
I
were
mentioned,
beauties.
and
Like, they
timely
were,
ones too.
Yes.
where
Yeah.
they got up 2-0, and then Delhi got a scoring opportunity. Weir was there for the big
Yes.
save, and then boom,
Huge.
it's 3-0, and
Yeah.
you kind of felt like
Huge.
it was over, even at 3-0.
Yeah.
You felt like there's no way Delhi was going to.
You know what I love about this league? I was I was in the lobby downstairs after when some of the Delhi players were coming out, and just having like a 2-minute conversation with them. Like it's refreshing to know that, you know, I was just like, oh, you know, you guys from Delhi, or sorry, I knew that. I'm like, you guys are on your way out for a drive. I'm like, safe drive, guys. They're like, you know, thanks. Yeah, no, we love coming here. And but like for all the other stuff that's maybe gone on, there's still that
The
I don't
respect.
know. Well, I don't know if it's even respect, just opportunity for dialogue. You
Yeah.
know, it was just
The players are very approachable.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm kind of getting at. I didn't have anything to say to these guys except that's what I would say. Safe travels home. Yep. Thanks so much. Yep. Blah, blah. Like it's good. It's a good thing. And these guys just got pumped 7-1, but
Yeah, and
they
you know,
still-
and for all of the talking and pumping the tires of this team, I haven't even talked about the guy who got the hat trick.
Yeah.
You know, that was
Sparks.
Sparks got the hat trick.
He had
You know,
3
for all the
goals
talk
and 1
about those-
assist.
When you got the big line and then the OG line and then the third line chips in with 4 goals because
Yeah.
O'Brien scored as well.
Yeah. Yeah,
And,
he opened up the scoring.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he closed it. He was actually, I think it was Sparks who got the
Sparks,
6th goal.
yeah, Sparks-
And the 7th goal, come to think of it.
Yeah, Sparks got the 6th and 7th, and
So, you know.
that's moved Stratford
how to make
solely
you,
into 3rd place. So
how to
they
make
were in.
yourself the most popular guy in the rink, be the guy who scores the 6th
Right.
goal and sends everybody home with pizza.
Yeah, right. It's been interesting because like Alvinston's untouchable. They're running away with it.
We'll see.
They're 18-1, 36 points. But then you've got Elora at 12-6 because they lost to Alvinston. They got 25 points. Stratford's alone in third now at 10-7 with 21 points. And then you got Petrolia and Tilsonburg are both tied for fourth and fifth, or fourth at 9-9 with 18 points. But it's really, after Alvinston, there's only like 7 points separating second and fifth. Like, it's tightening right up.
Yeah. But I think if Stratford can play with that full lineup against Elviston, man.
That's going to be.
Well, and
Yeah.
speaking of
Yeah.
Alvinston,
In 3 weeks' time, on the 25th, obviously comes to town. But one
Yep.
thing that a lot of people don't know, the night before,
Yeah.
Stratford is in Elora.
Yeah.
right?
So that weekend happening on the 24th.
That's a
and the
big
25th,
That's a heavy
Elora
weekend.
Friday.
Holy
Yeah,
mackerel.
yeah.
That's for a fifth. You play a 24 game schedule in a 9-team league, and you play one team 5 times. No
Yeah.
wonder they hate each other.
Right.
They play They play each other every year in the playoffs, and then they got to play each other 5 times in the regular season. So that's really interesting. The fact that Stratford could win, if they could win those.
Oh, my
Like,
God.
specifically, forget about the Alvin game for a moment. Win that game in Elora.
Yes.
They could actually move up and hit second place.
Yeah, they could catch Elora.
And it's important to do that because very similarly to the Go, it's a really tight
Yep.
league. And but getting
Well-
that second spot gets you a team like probably Dunnville.
But the
or
other thing
Delhi,
is
and
getting
that's a good
second
matchup first round.
eliminates playing Alvinston until the league
Until the-
championship.
Yeah, you want to get 2 or 3.
Right.
And that way you're right. You avoid Alvinston until
Well,
the
you
finals.
avoid them because, like, and I don't want to pump these guys' tires too much, but you got to give credit when credit's due. Like, you got Brennan Feasy, the number 1 guy in the league for Alvinston, 13
We scored
games,
another 3 goals against Elora Saturday.
42 points. Folks, this guy's averaging over 3 points a game. Then you got James McEwen, who I love. He's more the setup guy.
beauty, yeah.
He's a beauty. He's got 42 points, but in 19 games. So he's averaging 2.21. Then you got another guy who I hadn't really paid too much attention, Ethan Lamoureux. In 13 games, he's got 35 points, 2.69 points per
Yeah,
game.
he
Those
and
3
Chandler.
guys.
Yep, he and Chandler, former St. Mary's Lincolns.
Yep.
Who were the same age, played together for 4 years with St. Mary's, and then both signed up with Alvinston the following year.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very seamless transition for both of those players.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be naive about the Elvinston game when they come to town, but if they can come out, keep the mistakes to a minimum, because Razor, you were saying that a lot of the opportunities that come with the players that you're just speaking of for Alvinston are, when you make those mistakes, the opportunities happen, and a lot of the times they don't miss.
Right.
If the Stratford home team that Saturday can eliminate or keep to a minimum the mistakes, it'll be a hell of a game. I just think it will be.
Like,
you know?
Like we said, if they come up with that lineup,
Yeah.
Yeah.
then they can match the depth
Yes.
Yes.
of Alvinston. And I believe their D-core is better than Alvinston's.
Yeah.
The goaltending is maybe advantage Alvinston.
Maybe
got
it's a
couple of
wash.
they got a couple of big names in Fulcher and
Yeah, like the one guy had a
Goals.
cup of coffee with the Red Wings.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's they're the best team money can buy.
Sure.
Put it this way, it'll take me a while to explain the whole point process, but basically you're assigned points if you played at a certain level.
Correct.
Okay, either a
The
1,
higher
2,
the
or
level, the higher
a
your
1, 2,
points.
or
So they
3,
1,
for
2, 3.
example,
Yes.
A 3-point player is like Robbie Schremp, who played in the NHL.
Right.
Or a guy even who played in the A,
Right.
like Magwood, who's a 3-point player.
What's hilarious is Feezy's only a 1.
He's a 1.
He's a 1.
He's a 1.
He's the best player by
He's
far in the league.
He's the best shooter in the league.
Yeah,
You
and he's
cannot
not a
give
big
him
guy.
shot from anywhere.
Like, folks, take our word for it. Come and see this guy. Like, this guy is worth the price of admission. Joe Hishin texted me, and he goes, Razor, I looked this kid up on the OHL. He did nothing in the O. I don't know if he he went over to
Well, like I
England
say,
and
he's a
played.
shooter.
He's unbelievable.
Easily the best shooter.
He's unbelievable. And McEwen is so smooth and such a setup guy. He's a bigger guy. He's tall and lanky. But you've got Feezy, who just doesn't miss. Like, if you give him a crack, he's a left-hand shot, loves playing the opposite wing.
He's like the opposite of Ovechkin.
Exactly.
Who sets
Left-hand
up on the
version.
Right side of the,
Correct.
He's a left-handed Ovechkin where he just sets up and
Yep.
he plays the point and
Yep.
dives down
Yep.
from the point off the draw. That's how he scored 2 of his goals Saturday night against Aurora.
Top of the circle, he
Yep.
is deadly, and he doesn't have a big clapper. He's just got a heavy wrist shot,
Just-
like
and-
pinpoint.
And pinpoint
Yeah,
accuracy.
yeah.
Snipe.
He's so
The
good.
thing
I'm
about
looking forward
Alveston
to
is
it.
that
Yeah.
They've got 20 points in players, but you can only dress 10
Right.
in any given game.
Yeah.
So you can't load up with a whole bunch
Exactly.
of points. You can only dress, I think the number's 10, don't quote me on that. So some of their guys that are point players won't be able
Can't
to
play. Yeah.
So, but the thing is, a kid like Fulcher, for example, their goalie's a 2-point player.
Right. Yeah.
So you have
yeah.
to say to yourself, are we going to load up with point
Right, with him?
players, skaters, and then go with Goebbels, who's not a point?
Well, he'd be a
goalie?
3 playing for Detroit, would he not?
I think he's a 2.
Is he a 2?
Yeah.
Huh.
He only played, like, not saying only.
No,
that
but
I
he
don't
had a.
know.
it's
I
not
don't know
like
if
he had
And
a
again,
career.
I'm not
No,
on the
no,
executive,
I'm
so I
not
don't
saying
know
that,
all of
but-
the nuances and rules of the point.
I think it
but-
was about 6
Sure.
games. He
But
had.
I think because
yeah.
I was just looking through it today, and I'm
Uh-huh.
pretty sure I saw Fulcher's a 2-point guy.
Yeah.
I mean, good problems
But
to have.
still,
for
well,
Alveston.
exactly.
Oh,
But then, like I'm telling you, when
just
Pye
stacked.
picked up Hall and Magwood, like Magwood in 9 games, he's got 17 points. He's almost 2 points a game. And like, just watch, even though he didn't have a whole lot of points Saturday night, he controlled
He
the
was
play.
everywhere.
And he was setting up, like,
And
people
I
would
talked
come to
to,
him and he would just feather passes over 2 blades right onto his line
I
mate's
talked
stick.
to interim coach Dave Cassoni after the game.
Yep.
And he said, you know what, this is a guy who is just dialed in on
Yep.
the bench.
Yep.
He doesn't miss a thing on
Yeah.
the bench. He is so engaged. And that rubs off on the other guys on the bench.
Yeah.
He sees it, he says it, everybody
Right.
else sees it.
Well,
It
and
just- he's
Magwood's
completely
got a
done.
really nice resume. I mean, he's made
Yeah.
some pretty substantial
And
money in his
Yeah,
pro
and-
career,
yeah,
which
yeah,
is
he,
Yeah.
he may had
you know.
a couple of 6-digit years.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
but at
like
the same time, and
high
I think
six
even more
digit.
importantly, he's a great guy in the room.
That's
Yeah.
what I
That
hear.
is-
No, I'm not
Yeah.
saying that the money makes him worth it. Where I was going with that is he's played some really good hockey, and talking to Cassoni after the
Yep.
game there, he flat out said, he goes, you know, we have a role with the team, but when you got guys like Magwood and Palillo and you know, all the other guys like Robbins and
Pekka.
and
Yeah.
Pekka and all that, they kind of want to do what they want to do.
Yeah, it's
and
not. I wouldn't want to call it the inmates running the asylum,
Right.
but at the end of the day, as I said earlier on this program, sometimes as a coach, you just got to get the hell out of the way
Yes.
and let
Yeah.
them go.
Yeah.
and Cassoni's fine with that. He
And
goes,
is
"What am I
smart
going to
enough.
say?"
Dave Cassoni
Well-
is rarely not the smartest guy in a room.
Yeah.
And he's smart enough. He may not be the world's best expert on hockey. His hockey IQ isn't like a Magwood's, but his IQ
Yeah.
Of
is.
people
And he
people
knows-
management
Yep, he
is
knows how
top
to just
notch.
Say, all right, what do you think, Mags? Well, I think we should do this. Well, off we go.
Well, and what was great is, and alluding to what Jeff was saying, when he came upstairs, when Cassone came upstairs after the game, he flat out said to us, he said, like, Magwood already said to me, like, he said, Dave, like, I don't have exact numbers, nor am I privy to, totally correct information, but there is no way that Alveston has gotten as good as they are without paying these guys handsome sums. There's numbers being thrown around like $1,500 a game for Feezy and McEwen. Like it's
low.
okay. So, but I'm just saying though,
They're
like,
lowballing them.
if you took $1,500 times 20 games, there's $30,000 that tax free that these guys can be making. Now, there's a whole other story of why Alveston can pay this ridiculous amounts of money. He said Magwood came up to him and he goes, Dave, I don't need that. Like, I've made good money playing in the A, and he's
Honestly don't know what he's doing here, but I sure am glad he's
playing right. Him and Hall.
He doesn't need
but,
the rush, he
but
doesn't
Holly,
need the
like
money.
what I couldn't agree with you more. Like you must love the setup.
Pye
I
sold him
cannot-
on
All I can
Stratford.
say is I can't take my eyes off of Magwood.
He's unreal.
Oh, well
Yeah,
said.
great to watch.
unreal.
Great to watch.
I just can't take my eyes off him.
Folks.
He does everything at 100% speed.
100.
He took a quick snapshot from the slot
Oh.
on Saturday night, hit the glass below where we were standing. I kid you not. I thought that glass was going to break.
Yeah.
How
Well, and
hard
He
that
just
shot
missed
was.
the top corner.
Did you see later on when they're killing a penalty and he gets a loose puck on his own face-off dot, turns quick and snaps it out
Yeah.
of the zone,
Yeah.
and gets a penalty because it went over the glass
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
far end of the
Right,
rink.
Yeah.
right.
And
That was
went
like an
into
Ed
the
Olchuk
seventh row
move.
of the stands in the corner. It
Yeah.
was kitty
Yeah,
corner.
yeah.
It was about 100.
The furthest you can go.
Not
that went
his
into the
own-
seventh row. It
Not
was-
his own glass, the far
No,
end's
exactly.
The
A
glass.
kitty
offensive
corner,
zone
the
glass.
length of the rink. It was an Aaron Judge wrist shot.
Yeah,
He got a penalty
Yeah.
for putting the puck
Delay
over the
game.
glass at
Yeah.
the far end of the rink from his own face-off.
crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
I wonder if Cassoni laid into him about
He
that.
didn't even step into it. Like I said, he was heading back toward his own net, spun and just
Yeah.
snapped it, and it just
Yeah.
went woohoo!
Unbelievable.
Up
Ed
and went.
Olchuk did that one time
Oh my
down
gosh.
at the Almond, and I'm told that when he was 16, he was in his boots, standing on the ice, and he took a wrist shot from where the Zamboni goes out, and it went over the glass at the far end, underneath the Queen. Like, just some guys just
Some
have
guys
that
have it.
wrist, you
Yeah,
know.
I don't know what it is, and he's got it. So yeah, like I said, folks, you gotta
Do
the
yourself
next
a
home game-
favor.
The next home game is the Alvinston game.
That-
27th.
25th.
25th.
Saturday,
2 weeks from
January 25th.
Yeah.
Make sure if you're a hockey fan, you don't
That's-
have to be,
That's what I
And
would
you
say.
Warrior
to-
fans, there's no game at home that weekend.
Right.
It's
Right.
the
If
only
you're a
game
fan
in the
of
Willie all
hockey,
weekend
yep.
long.
come and
So
see these guys. They're worth the price
It's
of
going to
admission.
be a high flying
It
game.
is.
it
Like
is
it's going to
to
be.
It is.
I'm here to tell you, this is
fantastic.
not just me being a shill.
Yeah.
Nobody pays me to do this.
No.
Nobody pays me to broadcast the games. I just get a free seat right in the middle of the rink to watch these guys play. And
It's
it is
great.
Just
Semi-pro
like I said,
hockey at its finest.
It is as good a hockey has been played in this rink
Yeah.
in recent memory.
Before we get away from Saturday's game, shout out to Steve Vaders, my brother, the trainer for the Irish. He came out on the ice and everybody was chirping him not to fall.
Oh man, I tell you what,
Be a lot of paperwork.
Oh yeah.
he's the kind of guy that if he falls, you're worried about the ice.
Well, I said to him when he after the
Tough crowd, Bates. Oh my
after
goodness.
the game, I
Right?
said to him upstairs, I said, "That's something I've never seen a trainer walk halfway onto the ice, and when they're walking back, the players are asking, 'Are you okay?'"
And I can say that about Steve because I've known him about as long as I've known Razors.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
we're up
saying.
there. We're up there, and I'm just going, "Don't fall, don't
Yeah.
fall."
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, we were joking about that the next morning at Joe's Diner. So, but
Yeah,
I
that's
think
a
we
wrap.
got her. So
Yeah.
let's take her
All right,
home.
it's okay. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. Just start the conversation, folks.
Yes, and thank you everyone for listening. We appreciate all the support and all the spreading of the word. And Holly, as always,
Always my
you're-
pleasure, guys.
you're a
They're
permanent
probably getting
fabric.
sick of me now, but
Yeah,
you
no,
know,
we're just
I
putting your name.
Absolutely never. But what I will challenge you and Razor to do is start writing some material about the old
story,
the old
that old
folklore
almond
of the city work, because you know what, in about 12 minutes we were howling. So I just think it'd be fun.
To be clear, I only worked there one winter.
That's all you need.
all you needed.
You got a
But
ton
you
of
know,
material.
you know a lot of
That's-
the characters.
You learn all you need to know about the bowels of the Willie.
Oh yeah,
I just think that'd be fun.
yeah.
But anyways, thanks again, everyone, and we wish you a good week.
Peace.
Good night.
Wayward mind, lovesick blind. Why do I climb these heights for you? Twisted mule always gets my shit.